Recording. Yeah, I've not finished the website yet. I've not finished the even like the refurbishment wise. Not everything's finished. And then no advertisements. Right, we haven't advertised anything. Literally just word of mouth from our old restaurant. Very very good because we've also just been open for the evenings, right? So that's 10 hours basically we've been open. Let's say, but so far the profits over the last 2 days have been around £1,600, which doesn't sound like much, but for saying no advertisements, nothing like that, that's amazing, bro. Currently, I've got about £45,000 and counting of actual like investment into the refurbishments and so on and so forth. So basically, if I can cross 50k profits next year, um, I would have the restaurant would have paid for itself already, which I think I can get done. Like if it goes well in like maximum 2 quarters, I think it'll be done by halfway next year. So yeah, I'm happy with how the last 2 days have gone, man. Once I finish off the restaurant, and I'm gonna make a phone app as well. Once I make those two, it's so easy nowadays to like create websites, phone apps, and stuff. Um, and we do advertisements, we put signings up, so on and so forth. Like, once everything's done, I'm looking forward to how everything goes, man. Yeah, that's it, bro. It's always a bit of a money sucker, but it's good, you know. It's what it is. It's fine. Um, but yeah. But apart from that, everything else is good. I'll go going again for the evening shift. I got one of my colleagues to try and open up a lunch shift today, just to see how many customers we get. I want a rough idea of what Sundays are like. Um, but yeah, going good, man. It's going good. We haven't even done the upstairs bit yet, right? So upstairs, like I said, I want to make it into like a billiards table, like a dartboard, like a big screen, really good sound system. I make it like a karaoke room, like a little sports bar karaoke room kind of vibe, because we've got massive spacing upstairs that's just not been used before. Got a big attic space that's just covered in dust as well, because the old owners never used it. For like, it's been untouched for like 60 years. Got to make sure everything's safe, and then yeah. But no, it's going good, man. It's going good. Gas with it. You appreciate that, Ronnie. Yeah, it's what it is. You know, you see good opportunities, you take risks, right? We don't enter plays, we don't do anything because we know what's going to happen. We just manage our risks, and if it goes our ways, it goes our ways really, really well. Like getting into Zcash, getting into like Tesla, so on and so forth. I didn't get you in because I knew things were gonna go up. It was like when we were in that call, in that day, everything was just the areas where I looked at it. I was like, well, if you're gonna manage your risk, this is where you manage it. And then after that, if things run, it runs. If not, you lose a minimum amounts to yourself, right? And it's not like I knew Zcash was going to run so hard, or XRP was going to run so hard, so on and so forth, right? Or any of the alts I gave. It's more just so anytime I give you guys an entry, like, oh, this looks good, it's going to be because if I'm wrong, then you guys are going to be impacted the least in terms of how much you lose, right? And everything else is like, things go up. There's tier, of course, and also, obviously people don't like to talk about this, but luck is also has to be on your side, right? You could have the perfect setup, and it might just not catch bids. And sometimes you might have a mediocre setup and ends up catching loads of bids. So of course, like we've been lucky with the things we've chosen as well. Like I'm never going to be the person that says, "Oh, this is all skill, no luck." Especially with trading, there's going to be luck involved, right? Like you got to have because beforehand you don't know which one's going to catch the money rotation, so on and so forth. But no, I'm just glad, that I had a hand in getting you into the position in life that you're in. So no thanks needed. Flu, damn, is it really bad, bro? Are you still going into work or? No. Okay, let me open this up. I'll share the screen as well, and we'll just get started. There we go. I mean, if you guys can see that. I wanted to quickly go over stocks today, because, like I said, go where the money is. Right now, it's stocks, and I see loads of people saying, "Oh, who's going to rotate into stocks at the top?" Many stocks aren't at the top, right? Just like with crypto, um, even though BTC was at breaking 100k, we had a few good months where altcoins played catch up, right? I think it's the same with sort of like same with stocks. Oh, nice, bro. Yeah. No, kick back and trade NQ. That sounds good, bro. Yeah. Okay. Um, First, quick update on the stocks, right? Obviously, like I've already mentioned, on the stocks chat, we have hit a 2x on the challenge account on stocks, right? So we had a massive boom the other day with Rivian going off, with Lemonade, everything burning off. We crossed 10k. Crossed 10k for the first time because we were just under, like, 10k. We were at like 9,500 for the longest time because everything was consolidating, right? And then now obviously Rivian's taken the lead again, so we've crossed the 10k mark. That's a 2x on the challenge stock account as well. Updated that in the stocks chat the other day, I believe. Where was it? Yeah, there we go. Let me just forward that to the general. Yeah. So let's see if we open green tomorrow and Rivian carries on going up, this could turn into like 12,000, 13,000 pounds total, like very, very quick, right? So let's see what Rivian does. But yeah, it's good, right? This is why we diversify, right? We merged obviously with the crypto account. We started that one at 21k. At peak, that was like 64k. But obviously, I've already told you guys, I was very transparent, right? I showed you guys everything I was doing, all the dollar amounts. I did not sell the top because obviously my thesis was we're gonna be very bullish into Q4, right? That was my thesis, which is why I held on. Obviously, my thesis was wrong, which is why I didn't sell the top. But again, I've already updated this back in October, right, when we closed everything out. But we still walked away overall with 42,000 in profit, right? So that was a 2x. And that 40,000 is fluctuating right now because I haven't closed the ETH against BTC, right? I haven't closed the ETH against BTC. So if I go to the challenge account section right here, last time we did the tally up, it was the 5th of November, not even October. So just towards the, yeah, do that there. That was not including, that total number was not including ETH against BTC, right? Currently, that's just below 1,000. So since then, obviously, we took the Tower play and the Zen play, walked away with around 1,200 total in profits, right? So including that and the ETH against BTC, we're currently sat around 42,000 total, right? For the crypto challenge account. But like I said, much of that is in USDT now because, well, if you just got to look at the markets, right? Until we see some strength, until we see some volume come in, there's no point in me just dishing out calls for no reason. So what I'm going to do next year is, again, just like, choose a number, maybe 10k, or who knows, and then just do another challenge account. Like I said, I love doing challenge accounts on a yearly basis, right? But the stocks one, I'm not going to close yet because, as you can see, like, many of these, I've still got room to go up, right? So there's no point in me closing it here and be like, yeah, that's it, retired. So stock ones I leave open. Crypto ones, like, if I enter anything new, obviously I'll let you guys know. Otherwise, the only thing I'm in right now, by the way, is BCH, right? That's one thing I've mentioned to you guys before. On the monthly, I thought BCH looked good. But apart from that, it's just USDT. So next year, if I don't do anything meaningful until next year anyway, next year, we'll just use it on the amount like 10k, 15k, whatever, 5k. And then we'll just like choose a random amount and that'll be the new amount for the challenge account and just see how we do in 2026, right? Like I said, I have to do these on a yearly basis. But yes, obviously I'm not very happy with the crypto challenge account because you got to hold yourself to the high standard. That's how you push yourself. And walking away, that was like 20 something k, like it was nearly 22k just given away on unrealized, which is peak, right? It's what it is. But like I said, I put my money where my mouth is. I was very adamant to you guys that I thought we would have an extremely bullish Q4. We didn't. It's what it is. So when we saw that breakdown on Bitcoin, that's when I closed everything. But obviously our portfolio had dropped a bit after that breakdown happened, right? But that's also to point out, it's like, many people keep holding on to things because they refuse to believe when they're wrong. But it's like, as soon as you get your thesis getting validated, you have to cut, right? Imagine I just kept holding back in late October, November. We'd be down like probably all the way back and below 21k at one point if it just kept holding everything, right? So, it's that sinking ship fallacy, right? People think, oh, like, it's already going down, so I might as well just ride it out. No, it's like, we still walked away with the 2x, which is still good. Right, anything you take away from the market's good. So, yeah, not very happy with the fact, like I said, that I didn't obviously manage to close out at the top. But it's what it is. You know what I mean? It's like, if you still walked away with profits, it's what it is. But yeah, so just wanted to update that real quick. But yeah, today what I want to do is I want to look at I want to put some stocks in your guys' radar, right? So I was doing some sleuthing for my fund the other last night, right? Just looking at, okay, what new potential plays could I get into, so on and so forth. And there's a few new ones I want to put in your radar, right? This is for you guys here and for the general population in YouTube as well. And I'll go into in-depth TA like I do with you guys on the private videos, right? Where obviously I'm not going to put that into YouTube publicly. That's going to be for you guys. But I do want to put all of these on people's radar, give them like the general wave structure, so on and so forth, so everyone has a chance to actually play them. But yeah, let's take a look. So, first things first as well. I was meant to have a group session start. Literally, like by now, it should have started. Mohammed, brother, I'm really sorry about the delay. I mentioned this on the other last stream as well, but I don't think you were there when I was talking about it. We'll definitely get this started by like end of December, like 1st of January. Boom, we'll get it started, right? I still have 2 people waiting to confirm, which is really, it's a bit, it's not ideal that people are taking their time, but it's what it is. I can't rush people either. So I've got 2 people waiting to confirm, which is why, yeah. But as soon as they confirm, then yeah, we can get started. Okay, so obviously, quick update on Lemonade. Looks insane, right? Any pullback now for me would be to, if you're gonna try and bid this, it should be to this box. I would not enter where we currently are. You guys know why. This is way too. It's risky to enter here, right? In the sense that, look, your risk to reward is completely skewed to one direction. You could argue a rising wedge here, right? You could very easily argue a rising wedge. You could argue bull flag, bullish pennant. You could argue anything you wanted. You could look for a bearish case with bearish divergence. So lower highs in RSI, right? You can see normal RSI, the calculated RSI, higher highs in price on the 3-day. On the weekly, we've got bearish divergence start to build. You could argue that for why you wouldn't enter. You can argue the fact that it's already so much off the lows, right? We enter this like, I give this entry all the way back over here for you guys, right? Obviously, risk to reward is not on our side, no matter how you look at it. But also, I would not short this yet, right? In the sense that, okay, if you want to short this, you do so either at the 2.24, the 2.618, the 3.14, or the 3.618 if you want hard levels. If you're looking for anything intraday, go on the 4-hour, look for inverted smiley, so on and so forth, right? Because just like with, which one was it? One of these absolutely ran to all the targets to the upside. Was it LLY? No. Let me quickly find it, one sec. Which one is it? Neo. One of these had the most insane run you could think of in terms of ABCDs. Was it Oracle? Nope. Let me find it for you guys, just for comparison's sake, to show you what this can do. It's one of these. Not coin. It's right. Spacebar time. One sec. No. Yeah, there we go. This one, because this one had a very, very similar structure, right? This one had a very similar structure. Now, obviously, we didn't play this because this was brought into my attention like after we'd already hit this, right? Before then, I wasn't really looking at Simeon's energy. But insane wave structure, right? 382. We know there's 4 targets. There's the 2.24, there's the 2.618, the 3.14, and the 3.618. And this is the short setup that I gave you guys, right? It's like if you wanted to take like a one-directional bet, it'd be to the downside simply because of where you are. Right? You don't need to take this short because there's nothing indicating right now that you are topping out, right? You could argue again that bearish divergence is starting to build up, so on and so forth. But we haven't had follow through. Trend is intact. Everything looks ready to still carry on to the upside, right? So this is what Lemonade, hopefully you guys can see the similarities, right? Can very potentially do, because once again, we have the 382. We've hit 2 of the targets, and if it decides it wants to hit the full extension, we're talking about basically $100 Lemonade, right? 99.65 at the 3.618. So that is the range we're working with. So until we see an actionable weakness, just the fact bearish divergence is building up, in my opinion, is not enough. You want to see break of structures before it really size up to short, so on and so forth, right? Whether that be on the hourly, 4 hours, daily, whatever you want, but you want to see that weakness. So that for that reason, I've not added once we took 20%. Sorry, once we took half off, right, on Lemonade, because we put £2,000 into that originally, right? I took half off. And then after that, still got half remaining. I'll only add back onto that if we get some sort of like, fill up the gap to rate to reclaim sort of structure. That's why I've got this drawn on. Then I'll size some up to get that next leg up. If we don't get that, I'm just going to leave the half that I've got left to just carry on to the upside. It's what it is. It's risk free. That's the main thing, right? So just wanted to mention that real quick. Nebius. Yeah, I'll check that out, bro. Nebius. Let me just add it real quick and we'll get to it. Is this one Nebius Group NV? NBIS? Okay. 14% up, yeah. Ooh, I really like the structure. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we'll look at it, bro. Yeah, okay, we'll take a look at that. So, there's Lemonade Neo, right? The yearly looks fairly ugly, but that's again, that's to be expected, right? This is your first reactionary year off that low. This is 4 years in a row you've had down only for NEO, right? You've now gone to the actual extremity of the lows. You've hit wave structures. We mentioned this many times. Here we go, right? We've hit the crab. So if we come back here, we can take it as a type 2. But since the lower high, that led to the lower low, has been taken out, again, this is a quick one because I've already gone over this before, we're simply watching for a high low to come in, right? That's all we're watching for. You know, you can use diagonals, you can use horizontals, doesn't matter what you use. For example, I could just go for deep retracements, right? Right here. And wait for the deep retracement to hit, like looks like we're starting to hit some, right? Or I can wait for the liquidity rate levels, which is just above, as we know, to get reconfirmed into support. There's many things we can do, but we're simply just waiting. No matter what we do, waiting for the high-low structure to come in now, right? Our basis is let's wait for the high-low to come in because, well, technically speaking, the last actionable pivot we've had is we've taken out the last lower high that led to the lower low, right? We know that is a attempt at a trend shift. So if buyers can come in and validate a high-low now, we can say, okay, well, that's the first high-low since the trend has shifted, and then you'll be looking for the next higher high, and then a full-blown uptrend to come on, right? If not, you know, some sort of smiley face structure here would be insane if we got it, and I will add heavily to NEO if we get that, right? Here we go, support, right? Radon liquidity to the 3.14 of the crab. If you come back and treat that sort of top area support again, right, that'd be absolutely insane for NEO. So no matter what, because right now where we are, there is an 886 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there we go. That's the reason we keep defending here, right? We have completed a bat. So if we can maintain this area, if you see buy stepping in, you see sellers, you know, aggressive sellers not being rewarded, you can attempt to play here, right? If this fails, then I would think we probably go back down towards 378 perhaps, right? And then we'll recalculate from there. But otherwise, you know, this could very well be the high low being attempted by the buyers now, right? So this is an area you definitely keep in mind. Like if you wanted to try and take a play here, for example, what would you do? If you breach that low that gave you the 886, there's no point holding, right? You just do something like that. You know, 382,618, 1.618 would be the targets, you know, or maybe you finally go and hit this even next time around. Who knows, right? But you know, if you see sellers just keep being defeated here, aggressive sellers, buyers absorbing them, very actionable area, right? Let me quickly take a look to see what about moving averages. You know, you got moving averages here around the daily, right? You got the 200, you got the 365, right? So there's reasons why this could form a base, right? So NEO is another one to keep in mind. We're still 30-something% up from our entry, right? Let me quickly check how much it is. NEO 30.79%, right, from our original entry. So you know, if this gives me a sizable opportunity here, I will. If not, I'll just wait until we go back down, and whatever profits we took on this, again, we've taken more than half off on NEO, I'll just throw it back on, right? But yeah, NEO, right, not really interested in this one, just chopping in between ranges, right? 2024 low up to 2024 mid, right? Just literally just a range trade here on BA. Alibaba, in my opinion, this is just bull flagging, sort of like this is just a consolidation before the next move up, right? If you come back down to the grey box, that'd be an insane bid for Baba, in my opinion. The original entry I gave on this was over here, and in fact, Rani, you're one of the people who took this. I remember very, very vividly. But this was 160% up, right? From when I gave this one here, because again, M structure of the lows, right? Then you have clear demand coming in, sellers just not being rewarded, right? You've got very good demand. You've got validation of that 786 structure. So you know, this was the makings of, you know, just like a super trade down at these lows, right? Everything about this trade was so beautiful down at these lows, which is why, again, I didn't give this because I knew for a fact Baba's going to go all the way up 160% in a year's time, right? This was given, you know, in fact, a year and like, you know, 9 months. This was given because this was the area where risk management was so easy. Historical confluence, right? You've got, you know, buy-seller zones. You've got M-shapes, as we've seen. You know, validation of the M-shapes, the structures on our side. Order flow was on our side down at the lows. Sellers were not being rewarded, right? So this was just the easy bit, right? So Baba, I think this is just sort of bull flagging before the next leg up, right? But when they do that, do they give any manipulation wicks, so on and so forth? That's yet to be seen. But the bull flag here, it's fairly easy to see. There you go. You know, you've got your pole over here. Even from this to this. If you do this, that's your conservative target. That would be your breakout target. Let's say you broke out from here. So anywhere between 235, let's say 235, all the way up to 243. Right? That'd be the target. Max, I'm just going to put you on mute, brother, just in case you talk about any sensitive information. Oh yeah, perfect. There you go. Okay. So, but yeah, Baba. So if you see a breakout of this, or if you see some sort of rate to reclaim, right? Baba. By no means do I think this is done, because here's the thing: you don't want to be trying. You don't want to fade, right? You don't want to. When you get discount in an uptrend, that's exactly what it is discount, right? If you're gonna bid, you could bid Baba and still make money, right? You guys say 60%, 57% should they go and hit the targets, right? For Baba. So yeah, that's definitely one to put on your watch list. Like for example, this is a gap. If you flip the mid of the gap into support and we manage to get above the 1.618, why not try, right? Just take it up again. So yeah, Baba's one to watch. Unity, already talked about this, right? The weakness that did come in at the very pivotal W-shaped completion. If we get a type 2, and again we get bearish divergence with the type 2, so on and so forth, I will be looking for a probabilistic fade, right? Like if all the factors are lining up in our favor. If not, we just let it play out, right? Because this could just be a type 1 return that just carries you with an uptrend to the upside, with perhaps maybe something like a ABCD, right? Basically 0.5, 2.0, who knows, right? Again, this thing is also broken into an uptrend. Locally speaking, on the weekly, I would argue this is actually no. On the weekly, the last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out. High low has technically been put in. So this could carry on, right? That's why I'm not giving you guys a okay, clear, this is a swing short right now, right? Because we're trying to go against the trend technically by taking a short, but we also know if we want to take a short, we have a very easy area where we can manage our risks and just get that RR very, very tight on our favor. So if we get that type to return, bearish divergence, we see aggressive buys not being rewarded, trap long, so on and so forth, that'll be my trigger for a short up at this area. If not, we just let this play out. Like I'm not particularly interested in shorting something in an uptrend, especially if I've already missed the top for now, right? I'm just not interested in that. So that's Unity, but my ideal entry for Unity would be, I've been very vocal about this many times, if we somehow manage to get like a sharp pullback across the markets before the next leg up, you would be, in my opinion, if you turn a blind eye to a potential smiley face that comes in here, you are doing trading completely wrong, right? If you get Unity back at these levels and you confirm the top half of this, especially as support, and you have that U-shape, sorry, the U-shape, the smiley face, and you do not bid that, especially if everything's lining up in our favor, then you're just doing trading completely wrong, right? So for me, that would be a big bid on Unity if you ever get that drop. So, we're going to be very patient with this. Patience is one of my virtues. Just going to wait. Because for me, that is the big bid on Unity for now, right? Not when we are resistance that could potentially collapse any sort of week or any month. So spacebar, we're not interested in this for now. I don't want to spread you guys too thin either, right? So you already know my thoughts on these because I go over it all the time. Not actionable, right? Many of these aren't. Estee Lauder, I don't know how many of you are in this. I've been very vocal about this, right? Insane, absolutely insane M shape, 0.588. This is pretty much a perfect bat, right? If you take this from all-time lows in 1995, by the way. So this is not your 4-hour wave structure. This is a decade plus, right, in the making. 1995 is our pivot point start, right there. That's a 0.5. That's a 0.5. That's a 886. The literal bottom is the 886, and the only thing we're missing here is a 2.618. But very close, so it's whatever, right? With again, we had, come on, bullish divergence of the lows, lower low in price, high low in RSI, right? High low in MACD. On the monthly, nothing to be scoffed at, right? Monthly bullish divergence, which is why as soon as that trend shift occurred, I was telling you guys, yeah, Estee Lauder looks good, right? So this is why that was the reason for my entry on this. So now, as you can see, the reason I like this is now because your next yearly level, right, which is what I've got marked right over here, right, the 2023 low, which is right over here. You've gone and turned 2023 low into support. Right now, if you want some more extra levels to do your bidding, you can also go ahead and put this one down. Right, I'm just going to go and make that red or something. So we've got a zone, right? We've got a zone between 124 to 130. That's above 102. That's going to be your first target that you're watching for Estee Lauder to get to. So now you've gone and flipped this, right? You can watch this on the 3-day. That candle is very, very telling. That is an attempt, right? You broke above. Buyers stayed above. Sellers try to take control. They try to take it down. But what is this telling you? It's telling you buyers have now come in and defended 2023 low. Right? That is defense. I've not even gone on footprint charts. That's straight defense, right? So as long as now 102.22 gives you support, right? As long as that gives you support, like it's been previous support before as well, you can see here. Even on a 3-day basis, as you can see, there's a area of interest for us right over there. Support, support, resistance, 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 back to support. Now above this, what happens? Above this, well, historical price action tells us we have a very good shot at going to 124 to 130. That's it. You've had a couple gaps before, right? There's a little supply zone here that might give you a bit of a trouble. So I can go ahead and mark that down. So this might give you some intraday trouble, right? So something like that, some more chop. But as long as you're above 102.22, ultimately, you'll be targeting this area for now. 124 to 130. Get above that, you've got 146 to 159 basically. Right, so Estee Lauder looks good. And this one, if we take the actual supply zone now and then we get some sort of rate chop, I will be adding size to this, right? Because the reason that I've not added big size to this yet is because obviously I'm not going to add big size when we're below yearly resistances. But now we're starting to flip this into support. If I see the structure building on our side, then this position in sizing will get much, much bigger, right? That's just the starter position on Estee Lauder. So EL, this looks good, right? This looks good. LAC, let's take a look. Like I mentioned in stock chart, this is something I did fully close, right? And the reason I fully closed this is because once I see weakness, this was very much a news-driven catalyst, right? I got you guys in when we needed to, right? In fact, I got you guys in this like early. As soon as the structure came, we were in like from this area here, right? April-ish, April, May-ish. That this was a news-based catalyst. I'm not going to hold insane pump like this. So that was clearly a news-based catalyst, right? You can sniff this out from a mile away. When the structure's like this is a whole, I literally told you guys, don't be surprised if good news comes out for this in this area, and it did, right? When it plays to the book like that, I'm not going to be holding once we have an insane pump like this. So when I see like, bearish divergences building up, right, off the pump, there's no way I'm going to just hold, right? Which is why as soon as, this sort of engulfing candle came in, I was fully out. Take some profits on the way up when I was pinging, and then as soon as this comes in, just be fully out, because for a fact that okay, all we do is lose that 1.618. We're going way lower. There's absolutely nothing here, nothing, right? It's just air, and that's no surprise. We just bled, right? So now I will add back to this for sure if I see the structure I like. It's just not there yet, right? Let's see. Are we anywhere interesting at all? What's the diagonal saying? One on the weekly in the middle of nowhere. On the daily, not touched into anything exactly, right? So there's just no visible edge here for me, right? No visible edge. So either we go back towards like the actual 618, so on and so forth, or I'll just wait until some more like actual bullish structures develop for me to add into. Like you could very easily manage it, especially if you have a position open from this low. You can size up quite easily, right? But I would rather wait for that structure confirmation before doing any sort of size up here. Meh. You could argue an M shape, but so funky M shape here daily. You have hit an 886. I mean, that is an M shape, to be honest. Yeah, like wait for these to flip into support, so on and so forth. I'm not in a rush to add into anything right now, right? It's what it is. But definitely, keep an eye on it. Lithium, Americas Corp. Because at the end of the day, all of this, if you flip it to support, that's a trend shift. You'd go higher, right? EHang, not interested, right? This is why I'm so patient with these. Even though, like, you look good. You don't jump into everything at once, right? For now, we are below the channel on EHang. If you can reclaim that channel, if you can get above $16.80, EHang looks amazing. Below that, this tells me it's not ready yet, right? It's not ready yet. So nothing else to be said there. Not interested. I mean, resistance into support, but again, I don't want to spread you guys too thin. So for now, not too interested in this one. It will look better above the orange. Still, you can compress in, right? If you can do this, if you can completely outdo this compression, right, and you can do this, but what I think would be possible is something like this, right? That'd be nice, like a squeeze. So go below, make it look like a breakdown, and then all of a sudden the buy step in. If you see that, that'd be a nice entry. But for now, I wouldn't do anything right now with Arcad, in my opinion. United Health Corporation. I was waiting for that 230. It just never didn't happen. It's what it is. Maybe we get it, maybe we don't. M&S, what I'm hoping here is happening on M&S is some sort of accumulation, manipulation, and then eventually we distribute up towards the W-shaped targets, which is these, actually not this one, these one right here, right? So I'm hoping some sort of AMD, but let's see, right? Let's see. At the end of the day, 2024 rejection. Wouldn't be surprised if you got that, 382, 281 sort of level. You could also argue for a BAM, right? If you go down and actually hit the B point, that'd be a BAM, and then that'd be a nice high low, perhaps an ABCD higher at that point, from here to the peak. So let's argue that's the peak. So if you get some sort of BAM trigger, you'll be looking for a 0.5, and maybe you get the 2.0 extension, which would give you another confluence for higher later, right? So that's something to consider. But I think I'm probably the only person in this server who's actually in M&S, so it's alright. Okay, fast forward. Tesla. Insane, right? We got all-time highs the other day. In fact, we're still above... No, we're currently just struggling below all-time highs, right? To be expected, of course. Any pullbacks on this, like honestly, like I've been saying, is a blessing, right? So the last entry I gave you guys on this was here. We're looking for that BAM flip, right? We had the crab, right? I showed you guys the crab. We were saying, look, we've got the 618, we've got an 886, 786, 886, depending on which impulse you take it from. But ultimately, the main thing was, even if you don't enter at the 215, 198 lows, right? Even if you don't enter there, the main thing is this. We have a harmonic completion there from the past. That's an 886. We have a 618, right? From that peak. This is what we call a potential BAM trigger. Okay, now technically, the BAM specifically is for the BAT, right? The BAT action magnetic move. But the thesis is the same, right? What you're saying is you've come down and you've validated the B point of the harmonic, right? This is a completion price also, so you've flipped a bearish PRZ into a bullish PRZ here, right? The 886 of the BAT, the 2.618 of the BAT, so on and so forth, right? There's 2023 yearly levels, but it's also the fact that this harmonic structure, which is not completed yet, right? Which hasn't completed. You've gone and you've validated that B point. And basically what this does is, let's say if the probability of this playing out below was, even if we argue 50-50, right? Because in a fair market, normally when the wave structure is not completed, it's less than that. But basically you've gone from, let's say, like, 30-40% probability that this hits to like a 60-70% that this hits now. Because you've confirmed the wave structure's middle, right? The B point of the wave structure. Scott Carney calls it the BAM, right? I'm just applying the principle of the BAM to a 618, right? But that was the last entry I gave you guys right there, many times, right? In June, July, saying, look, that is a BAM trigger. We have our previous PRZs. Tesla, if you want to get in, is at a very, 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 very actionable area, right? No matter how you look at it, this is a weekly supply zone, mitigated, flipped into support. We have PRZs here, 786 there, flipped into support, M-shaped completions, above all your lagging indicators, right? Such as the exponentials, the EMAs, the MAs, and the BAM trigger. We just had everything lining up for us here on Tesla, right? So currently, that is a 68% pump, right? And if it goes to that BAM target, like 786, 1.272, that's a target. 1.618, 3.0, that's a target. Somewhere within this, basically, somewhere within 564 to 607, we'll basically have a 2x on our hands. And if we go and hit the actual 1.618 of the crab, obviously that'll be more than a 2x, right? But yeah, Tesla, insane. Would not be surprised if 2026 holds up well, right? The market's fair well. We don't get some sort of doom scenario. If Tesla genuinely hits like 1,000 plus next year, wouldn't be surprised. But that's just like Moonboy targets for now. Actual, like, technical targets are on the screen, right? In terms of wave structure. But yeah, Tesla, insane, right? Beautiful. This is for my personal portfolio, right? Tesla, this is one of my biggest holdings. I've been very vocal about that one. Got size in Tesla, some M&S. But yeah, Tesla, insane move, right? Very, very beautiful. Rolls-Royce, this was just didn't this short wouldn't have played out, right? If you took it, this wouldn't have played out. The entry condition for this was if you close below the 2.618, right? As soon as you close above the 2.618, you start seeing this basically, like, consolidation, but then you're just not losing your diagonals, right? You look like you're crossing over, but then this is what I'm talking about, by the way, for RCAT, right? When I said hopefully we see some sort of squeeze, is this. If we see this on RCAT, if we can get that on something like the daily, like this and then back above, right? Like how Rolls-Royce is done on the 4 hours, this structure, that would be a beautiful entry because that's signifying a false breakdown in this case to like a reconvergence from the buyers to like step in and then expansion back to the upside, right? But the inverted smiley didn't play out, right? So all maximum you lost would have been 2.83% on this one, right? So like I said, I don't give you guys trades because I think it's going to play out. I give it to you because I see an opportunity for very, very, like, if you're wrong, we're wrong by minimum amount. If you're right, we have a lot to capture, right? So this wouldn't have played out. I took this myself. I got stopped out, right? So this wouldn't have played out. Took this on my personal portfolio. So that didn't play out. So now what? Now the 3.0. Let's see if we can get to the 3.0 is basically what we're saying, right? 2.618. New highs on Rolls-Royce incoming. But it's not a surprise, especially with the the nuclear reactors, right? The nuclear reactors, the space contracts that are currently going now, the defense contracts. Rolls-Royce is prime to capture all of the entire market, right? So we had an opportunity for a potential short. It didn't play out, is what it is. Now we just stay off our hands until it presents itself. It's just that this either we SIP the highs or we go to like the 3.0 and just carry on chugging to the upside, right? So that's Rolls-Royce. Coinbase looks ugly as hell, right? Looks absolutely ugly. And the fact that they've now enabled stocks trading on a crypto platform, right? Obviously, I know many platforms do that, but this is Coinbase. Like the whole shtick is that we're the main crypto platform. All of a sudden, they're like, yeah, let's put stocks in. Yeah, I don't know what to think of that, right? At this point, honestly, you can see where I'm going with the structure. Just give me an 886. Unless it's an 886, I am not interested in Coinbase, right? It's just there's no edge here. So if we get the 886, like you'd get a really nice bad 0.5, 886 back to yearly levels. We can reconverge and be like, okay, well there's range lows, resistance into support, so on and so forth, right? But until that happens, yeah, I'm just not interested in Coinbase at this area. Just look at it on the weekly. There's no edge in buying here. There just isn't, right? BlackBerry, I still have some of this chopping around, but I don't care about BlackBerry. Right? Like I said, the reason I got some of this in the challenge account as a starter position is I'm trying to position for the long term. I would be amiss if I don't have a position here for the long term. Right? Look at the stock; it's beaten down. This is if you're going to bid, it's going to be areas like this. So it's a set and forget kind of thing for me, right? It's not like an A+ setup like Rivian was, but it's the areas where I would definitely want some exposure, right? So with my 20-40-40 rule, the area where I want exposure, the allocation I'm going to throw in, right? And we wait to size up when structure once again actually gives us no room of a doubt that the composite man is indeed buying this with everything he has. But otherwise, that's BlackBerry. Hood, not interested. Bull, we had one target for this, right? Or rather, one entry trigger, right? That entry trigger got validated a long time ago. This is here, but this is old, right? That entry trigger got invalidated a long time ago, right over here. The 86 would have been ideal for bull, but it just you rejected off the top and then you started closing below the deep Kali 886. As soon as we saw that red candle, that's when we got out, right? It was there was no point holding this one. And again, this is why you do not hesitate to cut losses. You don't have to wait for let me wait for the monthly to confirm. You don't need to do that, right? Look, you have very pivotal areas, you have very clear levels where you want something to happen. If that something doesn't happen, your thesis has already been validated. How much more invalidation do you need? If someone rejects you the first time, just take it on the chin, move on. That's what it is, right? So we got rejected, that's it, boom. Take it to the chin, onto the next one. That was it. And if we didn't, again, look, people will be like, oh, maybe we'll get a bounce of this. We didn't, did we? We just kept bleeding. Right? So you just got to be able to cut losses as soon as you see them. Right? That's a very important skill to manage in trading, because many people like to hold on to losers and cut winners too early. You got to be the other way around. Add to your winners, let them grow. Losers, just cut them straight away. Be very, very selectful. So bull, absolutely nothing to see here, right? Until we get above 954 for now, there is absolutely nothing to see here. Filthy. Now to our darling Rivian. This one is currently for the challenge account the moneymaker, right? Insane. Again, the reason I got you guys into this is because I noticed again what is just like Baba, right? The M shape, but it's not just the M shape, right? Why do I call this an A+ setup while I call something like BlackBerry not an A+ setup, right? It's because firstly, of course, we've been chopping about our moving averages, right? We've been compressing. That much is very, very clear. We've been compressing in our moving averages. So that's fine, right? Moving averages is very, very tight, which tells us that buying is converging, right? We've got insane pressure, basically. Limited volatility here. Then, what do we have? First of all, I don't even need to have all of these on, right? Turn the wave structure off and turn this off. What do we have? Around the yearly levels, we've got very, very clear structure coming in. Very, very clear. Look, that is a footprint left behind, right? This is what I mean by price action. I don't have any footprint charts on. I've not opened a footprint charts today for you guys, right? There's nothing here. In fact, I do want to look at footprint charts with Estee Lauder in a minute. But the compression here is, the structure here is telling you something very, very clear, right? Someone is buying this up, right? This wasn't there before. Yes, what's the difference between this side and this side? The difference is, on this side, you were in a very clear and established downtrend, right? So any pumps was still, you hadn't broken structure, everything was still to the downside, right? So you didn't know when the move up was going to end, right? So even though you're at yearly levels, there's no guarantees you're not going to revisit those yearly levels like we did many, many times, right? But now there's a difference. We have genuine structure, not just a controlled downtrending structure, but that controlled downtrending structure, right, so akin to a falling wedge, concluded. We didn't get a breakout or anything. What we got instead was compression, right? A sign that someone is buying this. Anytime there's a drop, there's a composite man out there. We call him a composite man. It could be one entity, it could be a collection of entities, right? But there is someone powerful with money buying this, right? It's been under that since April of 2024, right? We've been having that compression, the local compression, right? On a higher time frame basis like the weekly, trend hasn't shifted yet, in the sense that the last lower high that led to the lower low hasn't been taken out yet. So if we go up here and we put another lower high in, we can't be surprised if we revisit these, right? We can't. However, the context here now is we didn't have any compression structure, any sign before that people were buying. We have that very, very clear here now, more than a year and 6 months basically, right? That we had a year and a half of a footprint left behind that someone's buying. Again, after that, what do we have? We have M shape, right? We didn't quite hit that butterfly M shape, but we do have a completed M shape right over here, 886. We've now gone past the 1.618. And I know Antti was mentioning, I said I would take profits here. Remember, guys, I don't take profits if there's no reason to take profits, right? Just because you're at resistance doesn't automatically mean you take profits. For me, price action is always first and foremost. Take a look at this candle, right? There is absolutely nothing here telling me that I should come and take profits, right? Because when we touch, we did not falter the 1.618. So even though this is a significant level, a target, did sellers validate that significant level? No, right? So for now, there's no reason to take profit, because we're saying even if sellers were trying to come in here, buyers vastly outweighed them. So I'm not going to take profit into strength, right? No, let me rephrase that. You do take profit into strength, right? But not overwhelming strength like this. If it's a long-term play, you don't. If it was a scalp, yeah, you just take some profits because you don't know what's going to happen on the lower time frame. But on a higher time frame basis, I need an actual reason. I need something to break for me to be like, yeah, this looks like it's cooked. Let's get out, right? Because don't forget, this is you just trust, literally, just put trust in these. This isn't even anything out there, something I created for myself, anything that I'm teaching you guys, right? This is textbook price action. This is textbook TA, right? This is a very, very clear structure telling us that someone is buying this. There's someone buying this. There's a composite man out there, and I do not see why someone who's been propping this chart up for a year and a half would be happy with a $22 Rivian. I don't. If I was him, I'd go run that up, right? So that next time you dump it, market participants have a reason to bid it. Because then the trend has shifted. Now they're like, okay, this is now in an uptrend. When it pulls back, let me bid. You want to create that sort of environment, right? So yeah, let's see what happens. So what we've done right now on Rivian is we've gone for the gap fill, right? There's the gap, we filled it. So let's see how we open, right? If we open and again, sellers start to take control, we start to SAP the highs, we got aggressive traders being trapped, I'll take some profits, right? If not, then I'm just going to let it run. Like I said, patience is one of my virtues. I've been holding this now for a while. Got you guys into this a while ago now, right? So, we can, this can come back, don't forget, this can come back all the way down to like $17, $15 again, and it would still be bullish. That's how good this structure is, right? So honestly, we don't have to stress. What happens here, I might take a bit off, but I'm not stressed whatsoever because I believe in this, right? I'm putting faith in just literally classical TA. And, I will not be surprised if, look, we're above the 2022 6-month. So if I do this, right, on the 6 months, there's that low, right? There's a buy-seller zone right over here. So we're above the low of that. We're above the wave structure. So if I were to turn the wave structure off once, we have the gap, right? And in my opinion, we probably go to test 23.46. Well, I hope we do anyway, right? And if we get above that, $30 is literally the next target that I see. Because, why not just go rate these highs? And if you do so, there's a little order block there. 0.5 the next target. If we go to $30, we would already have 2x. So I'll most likely take half off straight away, right? If we go there, and again, we do something like what we did, the 1.618, sellers just aren't being rewarded. I'll hold until I see some selling pressure coming in and actually being rewarded. Because now if you get above 30, the next target is literally looked at is 40. We go to 40 above 30, right? In my opinion, you have some sort of mid chop around 33, 34, but ultimately, like, you know, your target up to wick to liquidity is going to be 40, 86. Right, so even from where we currently are, and by no means am I telling anyone to get into Rivian right now. I mean, again, you know, I've got you guys in, even on YouTube, like, you know, people who follow me on YouTube, their entry would have been here if they got in time. There is no way to manage your risk at this particular area, right? But even from here, we do have a potential 80% move up if we can, you know, get above the 2346, get above 30. Ultimately, it'll be 81% move up, even from where we currently are, right? So Rivian looks absolutely insane, right? Insane. Structure playing out, and that's all what it is. My job is to identify the structure, get you guys in with minimum losses to yourself. We again, what was it? Remember, successful trading requires what? Nothing complicated. I tell you guys just 3 things. Number 1, learn to find significant levels. All of you guys in the server know how to do that, right? You've all been through the same coaching under me. You all know how to do that. Number 2, learn to read price action at the significant levels, right? Now, I know people are going to be at different stages on this one, right? The longer technically speaking, the longer you spend in the charts, the more of an intuitive feel you get for price action. But now, again, everyone here knows how to read footprint charts. They know how to think in terms of buyers versus sellers. They know how to identify structures, right? What kind of things you're looking for. You know, you listen to me stream a lot. You guys will be picking this up yourself subconsciously, consciously, right? So people here, you guys here will already have an innate feel for this. If not, you'll get it over time, right, for the newer members. So don't even stress about that. But number 1, learn to find significant levels. Number 2, learn to analyze price action at set significant levels. And number 3, learn to find risk managed entries once you have your directional bet, right? So we had significant levels. We analyzed the price action. And what we concluded was, okay, the directional bet heads to the upside, not to the downside, right? And then number 3, I give you guys a very, very appropriately risk managed entry. That was it. That's the only 3 things we did. Even though it sounds simple, it really is, right? If you boil it down to just the blueprint, the backbones, that's all you need to do to be a successful trader on the long term, right? And after that, obviously, everything else we go through here is to actually build on all of those, right? But 3 things you need to master, just those 3. So let's see what happens at market open tomorrow, right? I think the markets are open tomorrow. Is there any special date? Yeah, no, it should be open tomorrow. So we have the gap fill. Right, the gap fill has been done. Let's see if that gives us a pullback or we carry on higher. But Rivian, insane move, right? Insane. GM brother, Jordan. Yeah, so if you go to $40 target, Rivian total position is probably going to come to around, I want to say like £9,000, right? 10,000 pounds is probably going to be the total. Actually, no, it'd be more than that. What am I talking about? Probably around 10k will be the total size on 338 Rivian. So that'll put us into, if Rivian goes to $40, we're going to be 3x on the challenge account, literally just off Rivian, basically. Because total profits, all we need next for a 3x total portfolio size has to go to 15,000, right? So we are 4,000 and basically like 400 away. So yeah, doable, you know. But yeah, insane. So this is what I say, guys. Like, you don't need to be in many things. You just need to find that one A plus and just put size in it, right? If you can manage your risk, size in it. Which is why the challenge account right now is set up the way it is. You'll see I took profits on Lemonade, moved it into Rivian. I took profits on Neo, moved it into Rivian. Because Rivian was the big bet for me, right? For the challenge account. Because I hadn't opened it. I hadn't opened the challenge account yet when I gave you guys Tesla, right? So there's that. But yeah, that's Rivian. Let's carry on. Not interested, structure's not on our side, even though we're at key levels. Remember, number 2, there's no directional bear here, right? ClearSpark, $9.95 would be the target. If we can sort of get to these lows, that'd be a nice area to try and take a bid. But right where we currently are, again, not interested. ENR, that's the other one I was talking about, right? Again, you have an opportunity to take a short here. You do. Do we have any sort of trap traders, anything like this? I believe this is table. No, it is not. So zoom in. What about on a weekly basis? I mean, no. This in terms of like aggressive buying and selling, right? There's nothing here indicating severe weakness. There's clearly some trap traders here, right? So your point of control is literally at 122.75, which is also your 3.618. Right, love to see these things lining up. So as long as you're below that, basically, as long as you're below that and the high, you know, you could try for a short. This for now is a rejection of that point of control. But you're above current weak point of control. So if you stay above, you know, you could try to challenge that again. But the directional bet is, again, like, you know, you have a very tight area here where you can manage your risk. That's it, right? So if you wanted to take like a sort of hedge to the downside, if you feel very long only and you wanted to try and hedge to a potential downside move, it'd be things like this. Not because they look weak, but because risk to reward wise, you know, they're there, right? And if you zoom in, there's reasons why now, locally speaking, there is local weakness. Again, point of control, we know there's trap traders, all that aggressive buying, you close below everything, that's weak. So as long as you're not below this zone here, right, that value area, you'll be looking for shorts, right? So as long as you're developing underneath that, you're going to be like, okay, well, that's the area where aggressive buyers tried and got trapped. So if you can't get above this, why would I jump into a long? Perhaps if you keep rejecting there, we go to the lower targets, is what would be a train of thought, basically. Yeah. So yeah, if you're looking for a short for now, you know, ENR is still a viable one in my opinion. You just go like half size or something for now, because you're at the end of the day you are trying to short something that is insanely strong, right? But there's reasons there why, locally speaking, we are seeing weakness in terms of order flow. That's the whole reason I'm giving you guys this. Now UPS, we talked about this one above the point of control. UPS looks amazing, right? Again, why do I like UPS? You've tagged into yearly levels, if I'm not mistaken. There must be a reason why I marked this out, unless it's a previous range. One sec. What did I do here? Sometimes I always forget. There must be a reason why I marked this out, right? Let me just find the reason why I've done what I've done here. I think it's just a range I marked, to be honest. Yeah, from the low to the high, right? All I'm saying here is this used to be a previous range. That's it. Previous range. So you've tabbed back into your previous range, right? And for now the top is held. You are currently at your... Is this a buy-seller zone or is there something else? Yeah, you have a supply zone here, right? So bearish liquidity pocket. You're currently within that. So you can chop around if you want, but ultimately, if you take out the last level high that led to the lower low, and you manage to put a higher low in somewhere around here, that'd be like a size up. You could enter some here, like a little amount, and then size up if you get that, and just cut if you don't, right? But UPS, in my opinion, is starting to build some interesting structure, right? If it's going to reverse, there's a very good reason why this would be it. The 886 and the 2.618 of the bats right there. And for now, buyers are trying to validate it. If this is the low, right? If this is the low, then your first target is 133 to 139, seconds 175 to 182. So you've got nice moves up in the bag, right? Very, very nice. Again, we're not going to talk about this yet because, you know, that could take, who knows, a decade to play out, if that, right? But these two, more likely, right? If we get a boom across the markets. So keep UPS in your watch list. LOY, again, the mid was the entry last given for this one. Flip the mid. I'm not in this myself, but, you know, that was given there. Nothing to do here, right? Now, BAYN, buyer. We're up on this too. This was in the challenge account. I didn't put my size into this though. Like I said, I'm just trying to capture moves off some of these to really get that profit, get it locked in, to put into one big sizable bet. That's the strategy I've taken with the challenge account, right? Which is why Rivian's by far the biggest bag, and Lemonade was the second biggest, Neo was the third, right? We're currently at T1, and currently now we can see sellers are stepping in, right? Sellers are stepping in. We could get a gap fill. We could drop back to $29. It'd be fine. So if people got in this with me, I don't know if you did, and you haven't taken profits, and you want to take profits on some things, this is a very good area. I repeat, this is a very, very good area to take some profits on BAYN. Okay, I do hope we get one more move up to the gap fill, and then after that, if we're going to drop, we drop after that with some bearish divergence, right? To, like, you know, a type 2 here would be amazing, right? Even if we drop all the way back down to 19, I wouldn't care, because I would take profits. I'm not taking profits yet, because right now we're just consolidating, right? But if you go up with great bearish divergence, lower high, any sort of weakness here, if I manage to see that, then I'll take profits, right? So BAYN, but the first TP target has been hit, right, on BAYN, and hang on, does it? That was 30. Yeah, 30% up when this was last taken. So from here to here, this was our entry. Because I said, above the macro bat, you have a very good reason to get in, right? This was, okay, you've got your liquidity rate, boom. You've hit the deep crab, beautiful. And then your macro wave structure, don't forget, XABCD, there's your bat, right? The 86 of the bat, that was also regarded as support right over here, and front run right over here. And that was the reason I got you guys into BAYN. Right, the structure here was impeccable. So yeah, but this is your first TP targets. If anyone got in and they haven't taken profits, feel free to do so. Okay, don't wait for me. Like, don't just follow everything I do. If it's right for you, take profits, guys. You guys know what you're doing now, right? Have confidence. There's, you never go wrong with taking profits. If you missed, if you take profits here and you stop and you go above, so what, right? Just wait until this flips, add the size back in. But at least you've locked that in, right? And if you've locked it in and you go down, you're going to be very happy. It's a win-win situation. So there's that. AMC not interested. BHP. This is the one I was mentioning where if you said, yeah, there we go. This is what we're talking about, right? I was saying if you got that B point pullback, which we did right over here, and it's successful, we might get that BAM. This is the example of a BAM, okay? You go and validate that B point. This is, we can see we've been chopping around it for a long time. Created a range, rated the range. Literally, this looks like a AMD, if I'm not mistaken. Here's your accumulation, right? Right there. There's your manipulation to a liquidity pocket. You got a gap fill. This is actually beautiful. Honestly, like, this is why every time I do a challenge account, I also do one for stocks, and I'm glad I did one with stocks with you guys here as well. We opened this slightly later than the first challenge account for crypto, right? But I was thinking, hang on, why am I doing just crypto? Let's do stocks too, to get you guys in the good habit of diversifying. There you go. And then reconfirmation of that lower support, so you would not be surprised, right? You absolutely would not. From this point on, you would not, and I repeat, you would not be surprised if this ends up being some sort of distribution box all the way back to the upside. So let's do this. And again, what would my target be? For now, I'll just target the 886. Literally, nothing even too crazy, right? Because there, and if you get above the 886, let's go raid the highs is what you're saying. So here's one, the 886. And if you get above that, then you can go and raid these highs. But this is literally what Tesla was doing, right? Not the 0.5, the 618, but we're saying, look, if the B point gets validated, that happened right over here, right? You had 3 rising valleys. You take a look. 1, 2, 3, bullish structure. 3 rising valleys on a bigger scale, right? And that B point got validated. So now, as long as you're above this, like, especially if you get the supply line breakout, this could run insane. But for now, conservatively, above that B point validation, especially over here, that's a 52% move up to the 886, right? So I'm not in PHP myself, right? I'm not in this one myself, but this is a setup I gave many times, right? Saying, look, if this flips, technically, this is the area you'd get in. I'm not going to be in everything I give you guys, right? I don't want to be spread too thin, like I said. Focus sizable bets. But I give these to you guys anyway in case anyone likes to look at this and they want to get in, they can, right? So BHP wouldn't be above $59. The only thing you have is supply line, right? These are all now targets to be taken out, right? Just in the way these liquidity arcs were taken out, these are now liquidity arcs to be taken out. And, let's run it, bro. Just run it. Stocks are really, really nice. ABTC, American Bitcoin Corporation. Let's take a look. Zoom in. Yeah, this is insane. Smiley face would have been lovely, right? But you got one attempt and then the second attempt just completely nuked you. Below this, you don't got to do anything until you get above $2. There's no reason being an ABTC. Just isn't. Maybe if you hit that sort of lower time frame demand zone, but otherwise, above $2 is where it's really at for any sort of sizable move up, right? Gold, we're gonna hit all-time highs at some point, in my opinion. Okay. I mean, relative strength is fading, but this is gold, right? So let's see how it fares with the higher time frame. But relative strength is fading, so let's see how this plays out. But I think all-time highs is a minute on this. MSDR looks like death. It's what it is, right? Into the order block currently. Here was your last range, right here. And let's hope that range, let's hope the range mid holds. If it does, you can reclaim the range high, and then you can try and target the range above. If not, let's go raid the range low, is what you're saying. So there's that. This is Bath and Body Works. Do I see anything interesting here? One sec. One could argue actually for can one argue? Oh, that's the real question. One sec. Yeah, I mean, there's really no visible edge here. Nothing, no edge here. Either you get above 21 to have a shot at go back towards 31, or this is the underside retest of a key level, and you're going to drop lower. So yeah, this doesn't necessarily look good right now. That looks like a 786. If that's a 786, then we have a potential butterfly on our hands. 744. I hate it when they give us obscure ass things like this, bro. Yeah, no. I'm not even going to try and shape that. So I just in terms of technicals, either you get that diagonal low, right, or you reclaim some of these yearly levels. Otherwise, this is going lower. No discernible edge right now, basically. Fresh. This is something we're in as well. We're up. Again, the reason I gave you this, guys, isn't because I knew this was going to go up or anything. Look at how good our risk to reward was down at those lows, right? Someone reached out to me on Twitter with this. So again, bro, if you're watching this, you know who you are. Appreciate you reaching out with this one. Yeah, it's literally just, again, learn to find significant levels, very significant one, to analyze price action, right? What did we have here? Like, obviously sellers try to take control, double bottom across a yearly like jump. They just couldn't succeed, right? So you get a reaction. It's just so easy to manage risk here. It's insane, right? Again, if I see like underside of this not being turned to resistance or anything like this, I will take profits on this and rotate it once again into more promising assets. But for now, fresh. That weekly I don't like, right? That weekly engulfing I don't like. So if we open and then we get some sort of lower high in the lower time frame again, I might just close this one out. But yeah, we caught a nice move on this nonetheless, right? Goss, yeah, I don't even know what to do with this one now. Like I said, as long as you're above that box, like your next target is 5, and the box was at 2, so pretty much nearly a 2x to that low, and definitely a 2x if you go to here, right, 114% basic towards the mid of that. But again, I'm not in this. I didn't enter Goss. I chose Fresh over Goss because the risk management was so much easier on Fresh, right? So if you get a check back to the box and the diagonal and it holds, you have a reason to enter. Okay, you have a very clear reason to enter. If it doesn't, then just don't do anything. Metaplanet below the 886, 1.618. Above that, it will look nice. You're holding your key levels though. That's good. Buyers are starting to step in. Right, but the structure isn't on our side yet, right? There's no structure here making me go wow on the higher time frame, right? But we'll keep an eye on how this develops because areas like this is where typically the composite man starts to come in and bullish structure starts to develop, right? So that just isn't on our side yet, the structure itself, but there are areas where it can, so we'll just keep an eye on this one. Now Wolf, this one I know for a fact, 2 people in this server, one person, Adam as well. I think he took this, but he's not on the server anymore because obviously I got everyone in the server just for the period where I had to do the group sessions, right? But this server's for Core Plus Advanced, like I said. So I had to kick people who just did Core out for now. Adam was in this one, if I'm not mistaken. A few people in AR were in this one. A few people in Unity were in this one as well. And from this server, I definitely know for a fact Ronnie and Gig, those 2 were in this one too. This one was an insane play. There was a period where I was saying, oh, minus stocks look so good, right? Wolf, you could not believe how insane the shark here was. This was such an insane shark. You see that high, boom, 1.13, right? Insane shark, just sideways, and then again, what do you see? Compression. There's your compression, right? Not at the same scale that Rivian did, but it's there, right? It's there. The compression is there, and then break above the compression, shift the last level high that left the lower low out, right? And then higher lows. This was the entry given, right? This area was the entry given last time. We were in the red for a tiny little bit, but 451%. This is in my main port, not on the challenge account, because this was given way before I opened this challenge account this year, right? But this is Wolf. So again, you can see how these structures play out and why I'm like, because if you take this to Rivian, we're like right here on Rivian. We're here right now. We could go higher, we could drop. Doesn't matter because the structure, this is telling you someone's accumulated, right? Someone with size. They're not looking for a measly like 50% pump before they just sell everything. It can take a while to play out, but this is the kind of move you're waiting for. And Rivian can very easily do this to $40, like I said, next year, right? If the macro conditions stay in our favor, right? So this is Wolf. Took a while to play out, but it's there, right? 451% for holding basically, I remember from the last given entry, for holding basically a year and something, right? It's patience. People are so glued onto the 1 hour chart. This is the kind of things they miss. But some of the easiest money and the most money you'll make isn't on the 1 hours. It's going to be on things like the weekly, right? Swing trading. This is why the challenge account this year, I did nothing on the lower time frame. Pretty much everything I did was swings, right? Swing trading. But yeah, that's Wolf. Nothing to be done here now, right? This is just compression. I can chop, this accumulation, manipulation to the order block, distribute higher. Who knows, right? But I've already taken profits on this, of course, right? I've got bags in case we go higher too, which I'm gonna close if we start breaking structure again, like it's what it is. This is Cambium Networks Corporation. Let's take a look. Yearly looks shit. 6 month looks shit. But yeah, actually, there's no buts. I won't do anything with this right now. Not until we get above this, basically. Literally the simplest line. You can see below that, not interested, right? You can try and build a position here if you want, in the sense that there's a massive gap fill, and if enough of that gap gets filled, this could get another move to the upside. Here, right, the gap fill of the mid, so basically like $1.14 or something if you get that. And you can try very, very slowly to try and build like a position on this, but you're not going to get any good moves until you get above $3.60 on this one. But above $3.60 though, this does have some serious legs, right? Because you've taken this out, so your next target is going to be like this, the fair value gap, so on and so forth, $13 perhaps, right? So it's there, right? The targets are there, and the log. Now the log does not look bad whatsoever, locally speaking. Locally speaking, the log doesn't look bad, right? We've already identified this one before on stream. Why we actually got this move up, the smiley face, right? And now one could look at this and say, okay, well that's your neckline retest, right? So don't forget about your log chart. You could try and have a allocation to spread over this. You could have allocation to size up if 360 gets through to support, so on and so forth, like a long-term allocation strategy. But this is definitely one to watch, right? Interesting one, right? I like things like this because again, there is a degen in me that I'm like, okay, well, but if this goes our ways, it's a couple 100% to the upside, right? So of course, I'm gonna be an idiot to not try and take plays like that, right? Even if it's not much of your port, you should have like a port allocation to something that's a bit more degen in this sense, something like this. Because you can grow some, you can grow some money quick if it goes your way. If not, risk management you still do, and if you take a hit, you keep trying, right? Not everything's gonna go your way, but yeah, it's the NBM. Okay, Nvidia, is it topping? Is it consolidating for higher? Who knows? I'm not interested in buying Nvidia here. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's too high, but hopefully this goes up because if Nvidia keeps going up, bodes well for the AI sector, right? Chips, so on and so forth. Baidu still consolidating, but don't forget this did have a breakout. Now I forget which chart I actually charted this in, right? So let me try and find it. Baidu. Which one did I do it on? Is it this one? No. Is it this one? Yeah, this is the one. Doesn't matter if you log on linear, you're above that supply line, you're above these yearly levels and that resistance right over there, the liquidity pocket that used to be there. You're above that, right? So Baidu, even though it's still range bound, I wouldn't be surprised if this went up to 200 plus, right? I wouldn't be surprised. Even if it's just to grab these highs, it's got a nice little move in it, in my opinion. It looks like this is consolidation before higher, so let's see. But that's Baidu. Let's get off log. This is Richtech Robotics. And by the looks of things, again, this is why I'm patient. By the looks of things, we will probably get our 886 at this rate. Just give me the 886 at this rate. Stop messing around here. Give me the 886. I mean, there's a reason why we are bouncing where we are, right? You can see it very, very clearly right over here. Extreme, this is a pivot low. You're holding that, right? So if it doesn't give us the 886, right, and you start to see aggressive sellers being trapped here for whatever reason, you can try and take a bet here, but hopefully we get that 886. But don't forget, this is within a larger M shape. Larger M shape, two M shapes in fact, butterfly and a bat. So if you come here for a type 2 return and it holds, there's no reason waiting for, we might get 1.83 again. Because if you don't, if you wait for that and you completely ignore the price action that comes in here and it's bullish, you're going to miss out on a potential move to like T2 and stuff, right? So yeah, let's see how this one develops. I'm not in this right now. BTBT, we have hit the shark, like we talked about before, right? This is the shark. This looks good, right? We've hit the zero extreme. Last time we talked about it, I said, look, if you reject here, don't do anything until you either take that zero out or you confirm that shark back into support, right? You've taken out the zero, now you're above the shark. Easy place to get in for BTBT. But before I say that, I should put the parallel channel back on. Yeah, there we go. Literally so easy to manage risk here on BTBT now. That weekly is telling, right? It's very, very telling. If the weekly closes like this, you can wait to get above this, of course, or you can just throw a size in. Even if it's just half of what you would, even if it's just 40%, a size in, and you can, if you're not confident, you can size up once you at least get turn it to support, right? And just cut if you start closing below the parallel channel and the zero. But otherwise, BTBT, that weekly close is telling, right? Looks good. I think of this as accumulation, manipulation, perhaps distribution face at the upside, whatever. Target is $2.95. That's your T1. Okay. So even from here, that is a 31 to 33% move. Good in my books, right? So BTBT looks good. XPEV, talked about this one, 66618 retest, right? That'd be the entry. We're just about front run it for now. But I think XPEV looks good as well, to be honest. It's because what we were looking at this before, we were doing this. Or maybe I didn't put it down yet. But you could do this there. Alright, there you go. Bottom of the channel on XPEV. M-shape hit, right? You flip T2 into support is what we're saying here. You keep staying above T2. So eventually to the upside, $34 targets. You would not be surprised. You would not be surprised by $34. You just wouldn't. 70%. That's your 1.618 because you flipped the wave structure into support, right? The second target. So that's XPEV. And again, robotics is a big sector. I think they'll do really, really well. So XPEV, that's the reason, again, I've got a starter position in the challenge account on this one, right? American Airlines, take a look. Why did I like this? I like this because of that potential M-shape we had, right? But this was meant to be a shark, but it's not the nicest shark, right? Because obviously the C is higher. It's not a 1.618, right? It has to be 1.618 to a 2.24, but the 886 is there. So, you know, just taking a look at it in that regard. But, you know, that again, we do have compression, right? Locally speaking, that's compression. Take a look at the 4 months. Take a look at the 12 months, in fact. Let me just mark out a old range. There's a range. Yeah, I mean, the yearly looks good for American. Like, you know, above this, I wouldn't be... Grab a couple of those wicks, perhaps, right? But right now, would you enter? No. Resistance, right here. 1577 resistance. So either you enter on that pullback to sort of... Maybe you take some of this out and then reclaim 12, right? That'd be a nice entry. Otherwise, you know, if you ever flip 1577 into support, I'd manage my risks around 1577. Keep it tight. But American Airlines, you know, maybe some good news. Maybe they get some sort of like, you know, partnership, or they come out with a new airline fleet, whatever. But they look good, honestly. Coffee futures. Smiley face doesn't look like it's happening now, but it's still got a chance, right? If the smiley face happens and this flips, coffee futures can still run. If it doesn't, you know, the range is there. This is CRE. Again, you guys already know my thoughts on this, right? Either you get that box, or we get in once we start to flip the diagonal and size up once the deep Garlier 886 is flipped. Until then, that is a failure of the structure right now. There's no point bidding the failure of a structure. If you're looking for long-term bids, right, there's no point bidding the failure of a structure. You normally try to bid the raid when you're, in my opinion, when you do low time frame trading. On the high time frame trading, there's not going to be like a discernible benefit to like bidding the raid, right? Because you on a higher time frame, your targets are like so high. It doesn't matter whether you got in here or here or here, so on and so forth, right? The whole range, you can enter this whole range slowly. So, but yeah, CRE, either the box or you start flipping the diagonal back into support, so on and so forth. This is C3AI. Still, like, that weekly's ugly. Like, this is the area where you can try and take bids on this, right? But there's no structure on our favor yet. No significant bullish divergences, nothing. So, you know, if you can just I'd keep an eye on it, but you don't have to do anything meaningful with it yet. Snapchat, let's take a look. So this was the last given entry on Snap, okay? Just because, again, not because I think the chart looked good. If anything, the chart looks ugly, but more so because of where we are. Risk management, super easy, right? And currently in the green if you took that entry. So let's see how this one develops over time. Nothing much to be said here. Compression, we might get the breakout soon, right? Let's see. This is the mod. This was the top golf one we talked about, right? Nice move up from 886. Flip the 8.93 into support, right? The mid above. So if you get a pullback that goes into this sort of region and it holds, that'd be your next entry if it didn't enter sort of down over here. So let's take a look what happens, right? But I mean, there's so many ones that look good. Just choose a few. Like, that's the purpose of this. I just want to go over everything with you guys real quick. And for the newer ones we're going to go over in a minute, I'll do in-depth streams like on a private, right? Momo, still at the area of confluence, right? At the yearly level. This mid is being flipped in support. The 618, let me see, did you get a 707? Close to a 707, not quite. So I'll leave that as a 618 for now. But above that grey box, I would dare say Momo has a shot of going up towards that D point. But it's not the strongest chart. This is not an A+ setup, basically. But you can't deny this is a very real level. That's the whole reason I'm asking you guys to watch this, right? It's a very, very real level. So if you get a discernible boom, okay, buyers have shown without a shadow of a doubt they're in control, then that becomes a very, very big likelihood on Momo, which is why I've got this in your guys' radar. BTQ, this is technology. I mean, take a look, man. It's like easy to manage risks, yeah? Like this. You could do this and that. That's a range. Hang on, wait. There's more data on this one. Let's do this one. There we go. This is why I always look for the earliest chart. Oh yeah. When I see the 886 though, I get a bit greedy. Just give me the 886. 786 is value, of course, but the 886 is more value, right? So if we can get the 886, yeah, just give me the 886, bro. Honestly. Yeah, I'm gonna be a bit patient with this one, guys. I'm gonna be a bit patient, right? There's no discernible edge here from what I see. I'm gonna be a bit patient, but the 886 would be lovely, as you can see. It would be absolutely insane if we got it for the next move up. We just sort of set an alert around this area. There we go. Okay, this is FTAI FIP. So from this point on, actually we've already gone over a few of these before, but the reason I like this one, again, yearly level, you're bouncing off it, right? You're bouncing off the yearly levels, you're trying to compress. So eventually, if that compression plays out to the upside, again, you guys know what I'm talking about. I'll just do this. Hang on, do this. So it's got double bottom potential. Anything else we have? Again, I'm not doing in-depth for everything, guys, because I want to save that for like the private streams, right? But this one, this way at least everyone on YouTube and you guys know what to watch for, right? And if I don't have time, you can go and choose the ones you like and then get the private stuff, like, you know, do your own TA on it basically, even if I don't manage to do it in time. Okay, so this is sort of in the middle of nowhere right now, but we do have these yearly levels. So I would bet big only at areas like this where, you know, I feel okay, the RR is the best. Until then, I'll probably trade this, right? You can. I have a trading 212 CFD. Sorry, not CFD. Yeah, CFD account. I'll probably trade it until we probably get back down towards here. If we do, I hope we do. But that just watch. That'd be an insane, absolutely insane opportunity to get into FIP if we get here. You know, you can't trade this with size, right? But let's say if you enter now, what you'd be saying is if you start closing below 4.43, you cut, and your next entry would be 3.89. If you close below that, you just cut straight away until you either reclaim or you get to 342. You can try and play the whole range if you want. If it's like a long term, you want to hold it long term. It's a consumer service, right? You can do it long term as well, like, you know, just add a bit at each key level sort of thing. But I'd probably play it tighter, right? Just because I don't want to be holding in the red for too long either. But yeah, that's another one to watch. Just look at it, man. You've got opportunities, like we've got opportunities, loads. PLG, this is Platinum Group's metal, looks insane, like looks good. Obviously metals, but currently again at resistance, very easy. You can see that very easily. So until that resistance gets flipped, there's nothing to be done here. Here's the resistance in question. There, right? Until that gets flipped, there's nothing to be done on platinum. But if that gets flipped, understand you have a potential another 108%. You could pull out your ass, right, if you get above that. So that's why I'm asking you guys to keep this in your watch list. If it gets above that, it could because that's a monthly candle. Don't forget, that's a monthly candle. So we could get a couple months for it to 2x from above this. So yeah, keep that one in mind. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and add alert on PLG, somewhere around the high there. Okay. So again, we've talked about tandem diabetics. Either you flip this, right? We didn't get the flip. This is why I told you guys just don't enter. It's going to be hard. Either you flip or you wait until you come back down to the PRZ, right? Because even though on the macro it looks like, oh wait, what's the problem? We're here. The thing with these is, just look to the downside. That's like a 30% drop, right? And I don't want you guys to be holding a 30% red sort of position. So just wait until you flip that, or wait until you get closer to that 886, 2.618 area. But again, structure on this is insane. The wave structure is crazy, right? We've talked about this already. M shape, type 2, that's also an M shape. If you get a smiley face on top of that, this would be beautiful. Absolutely insane. It's 10-year bonds. This is something private. I'm not going to go over this one. Silver. Every day we get closer to what? Closer to this. If we go to the monthly, M shape 886, 2.618. T1, T2. This is your primary projection. Not touching silver until we get to 73. If we start seeing distribution there, I'll open up some CFD shorts on this. Right? But apart from that, not doing anything here. Like I said, my physical gold and silver, I'm not selling. That's like a I'll pass that down to my kids kind of thing. I'm not going to sell those, right? But this is insane, right? It's insane strength. Okay, Wrecker, we talked about this one as well. We're just waiting for a higher low to form, right? But there's no structure yet telling us, oh yeah, the high low is in. So you can be patient for the structure. But especially on log, you can see why I like to look at this, right? You're above this, so it might take a while. It might come all the way back down, which is why I'm saying just wait for a high low to form. Until that structure is given to us, there's no point trying to guess where it's going to be. You might as well just wait for the confirmation, right? But technically the last high has been taken out. It didn't lead to the lower low, technically speaking, right? But the last high has been taken out. I mean, sort of, right? That's been taken out. So let's see what happens. I'm in no rush to enter this, by the way. No rush, because it looks good. Just because it looks good doesn't mean the entry's there yet. We don't have an entry yet. A good entry. We don't have it. We don't have a good risk management profile. That's why I'm not giving you guys an entry. I'm just saying keep an eye on it until we get that U structure, until we get that structure of trapped shorts, trapped sellers, right? That's telling us, okay, our bottom looks likely to be in. Then we can try and manage a risk managed entry. We can try it. But until then, we don't have much here, okay? Netgear, we talked about this. This is also at the 886, right? With some actual buys finally stepping in off the back of that bullish divergence. So you can try and play this for an impulse, right? When we last talked about this, we basically said, look, if you get impulse at the 886, just enter something like that. You can still do it. It's not like it's impossible, right? It's basically 5% risk. So if you entered, it'd be like this, right? T1, T2, so on and so forth, right? Maybe a gap fill before we go lower, who knows? But your gap fill would also give you this. Where is it? One sec. Gap fill would give you inverted, right? So perhaps you get a gap fill to a bigger drop to take these out. That's literally around a T2 as well. The spacing just like ingrained into my memory now. So that's going to be a T2. You can tell just by looking at it, right? So yeah, something like that's possible on Netgear at this particular. But just understand, the weight structure is completed. Buyers are stepping in for now, but type 2s are always better than type 1s, right? So that's why I'm saying just keep the risk high here. Because if this fails, and this is just like a sort of rudimentary bids and then you're going to collapse, you can drop way harder. So this should be like a reactionary play, basically, something like this. Okay, so from this point on, it's all newer stocks, okay? I was doing a lot of research yesterday, just adding things that I thought looked good. So this, first of all, many of these are already our highs, right? So I'm not saying get into these right now, but look for areas to get into these if they pull back, right? All of these have some sort of news going for them, right? Brookfield Corporation first. This is finance, right? Brookfield Corporation. For now, again, I'm saying just keep these on your radar. I'm not giving you entries on these. If you look at this, you know me. You guys will know me well enough to know that I will not give you entries at all-time highs, right? It's not going to happen. But if you get a next pullback on this, right, a good pullback, and then you manage to catch the rounding bottom, again, the trap sellers, you can very easily just keep riding this uptrend. Look, if it's in an uptrend, don't fight it. Just buy the dips. Buy the dips, right? Until structure breaks. For now, how would structure break? For structure to break here, you have to take out $28. Then you wouldn't buy every single dip, but rather you'd look to short every pump because the trend would have shifted, right? But until then, even if it's something like this, you would buy that dip because it's just, probabilistically, you're gonna get that move back to the upside until trend's broken, right? So Brookfield Corporation's one. Amazon, obviously, this isn't new. I just realized I didn't actually have this on my list, so this is something to keep an eye on. I don't have any Amazon myself, right? I don't. But I think the boom that Meta and Google had, Amazon hasn't had anything like that, in my opinion. Like the crazy boom from this to like higher prices. So for that reason, if we ever enter a black swan scenario where we get sizable drops across everything, Amazon would be something I would want to buy, right? That's why I'm keeping an eye on it. This right here is Topicus, right? This is a technology company, and you see a lot of these right now, like technological companies just going, because there's so many defense contracts and drone contracts and so on and so forth coming to life. A lot of technology companies just boomed, right? Look, 2022 to this has been in its own bull market, right? That is a 223% move up, right? That's good. So all at key areas, I'm just going to go ahead and mark something down, right? Something random, something like that. So, you know, for example, if this gets above 129, just get in, right? You can try and put some stop losses below the retest wicks and then try to ride the wave higher, perhaps, right? This could be a shark for all we know. Here to here to here. Not quite a, in fact, not even a shark. This could be close to, I didn't notice this last night, but that could be an, there we go. We haven't, in fact, the argument for this just got it better because that is an 886, right? I didn't notice this last night. It was like 4 in the morning. I came back from the shift. I couldn't sleep. So I was just putting all these new stocks in for you guys and for my own fund as well. I'm running on like just pure motivation right now. I've not slept properly in so long. But that is insane. Look, 2.618, that is beautiful. So you can do a little entry here, right? It can be 40%, 50%, whatever you want, right? And then you could perhaps wait to size up with the rest for, you know, if we get above 129. Heck, if we get above 143, right? It's up to you, but again, these are the kind of structures you want to bid, right? Look, this is in a very well-established uptrend, right? You can go to the 2 months, you can go to the monthly. This is in an uptrend. The last higher low that led to the higher high is down here. It's not been taken out. It's had an 886 retracement, right, in comparison. So, if you're going to bid, things like this is what you'd be looking at, right? So this is topicus.com, TOI, okay? I can go more in depth into this if you guys want, but again, I'll do that on a private stream, right, just for you guys. But yeah. So, you know, if you guys don't have this on your list, I'd put that. This is Hims and Hers. You guys probably know what this is. Their revenue is insane, right? Also, another thing I want to mention, Topicus's marketing team is insane, right? Their marketing team is actually insane. So that's something else they got going for them as well. But this is Hims, and the reason I like this is because their revenue growth is insane, right? They're very, very profitable. I think they got like what 30 to 40% revenue growth like year on year. Like it's insane. Again, very well established uptrend, right? So again, if you see value coming in, you just take the bait. That is a 618. That is a 786. That is a completed Gartley, right? And right now you're having a double bottom structure being put in at the Gartley. So again, if you're going to take a bet, easy place to take a bet in my opinion. Very, very easy. Your stop loss is literally just below this low here, right? Because if you start losing the 786, right? You start losing the 786, we know you've got a potential for an 886, and that'll be the next area of interest for us, right? And again, this is all still a high low compared to the last high low that led to the high high right here, right? Everything's still within trend. So another one is Hims, right? Look, 786. You've got this sort of return with the higher low for now on the weekly, right? High kind of body close if it closes like this, because we get weekly close tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we do. So Hims is another one, right? Hopefully you guys can see the M shape. That's a Gartley. That's a very, very beautiful Gartley, in fact. Demand line. If I go to log, I can just sort of fit this demand line in. Let's see if I can just do like a. Hey, does that work? What's the best way to do this? This? No. Has to be in context. No, let's just stick with local. Hang on. There. Support. Yeah, there we go, right? There's the demand line right there. If you take this as manipulation, the 86 would also be manipulation if we can reclaim just Hims higher, right? So another one, Hims. Chesil. Inc. Technology. Again, loads of technology companies right now. Insane. Look at the yearly chart, right? Look at that 6 month again. Just gonna throw a random level on, quote unquote random. There you go. Look where you are. You guys know what it is, right? So do you get in right now? No, right? Just because we're below resistance, like if you're gonna get in, might as well wait for the flip. There's the flip. You get above that, you go higher, right? But otherwise, I think this looks good. This is Sezzle. Either that or, you know, $52, right? But there's your range, right? There's a range size. If you flip it, you know what that means. If not, if you reject it, you know what that means. This is Optical Cable Corporation. We talked about this one before already, right? Insane sell-off, and this is why I said, look, this looks good. But now, look where we are. While that sell-off is nasty, I'm not telling you guys to bid this straight away. We're at the mid of our, let's say, consolidation range, right? You look at the 6 months, you look at the yearly. There is your consolidation range. Now, you know, some people might take it to the low, to the high, so on and so forth. I'm just taking it to the majority of the candles, wicks, so on and so forth. It's around the mid of the consolidation, right? So if, once again, we can get structure coming in here, maybe a rate to reclaim of this low as well, fully cap filled, I think that's a good area to bid, to try and, like, you know, play even to the lower high, to try and play that, right? So that's optical cables. This is SN1. So let's take a look. 344 800. Yeah, either we get above or we don't. It's one of those ones. It's whatever. BTU, we've already looked at these ones, right? We looked at this last stream, so I'm just going to go over it real quick. BTU looks good though, right? The retest of the blue box, what we were talking about last time we streamed, the retest happened, like it's successful, right? We're successful here. You held. I'm not in this, right? This is just different. It's just stocks that look good that I gave you guys. US oil at the 86, no bias coming in. I think this slips slower and lower. This doesn't look good. ODV, this is Osisko development, right? If you can turn this low into support, you have a really nice entry. If you can't, like I said, which you haven't managed to do yet, just don't do anything. Just wait until you get that low into support if you want to get in. Now IQ, we talked about this as well, right? Easy to manage area for risk, right? That was the first entry given, 6.77% risk. Stop loss hasn't hit, but you are below entry if you took that one. I'm not in IQ yet. I've not entered yet, right? On the challenge account. Or if you took the bigger one where you want to add over time, the other one was this 23% stop loss, but you wouldn't enter everything here. You have a allocation for DCA. This is no DCA, this is DCA, right? But IQ, if you look at it where it is on the macro scale, again, I think this screams opportunity down over here. We just got to watch for that bullishness, the pivot, so on and so forth. That's all we got to catch, right? That's why I'm keeping an eye on this one. Clove, again, we've talked about this one as well. This is health, right? Clove health investments, right? This is finance. So above the mid, we're Gucci. Below the mid, we don't do anything. 275, line in the sand. This is Chromek. There we go. Weekly candle above, right? So now that we've got that close above 760 close and the successful retest, we're getting that move up, right? We're getting that move up. It's going to be to 936, right? And if we get above 936, we go to 11. And if we get above that, then we're talking insane targets like 17 and 19, so on and so forth. But below 936, we come back down to 7. Right? And then you can try and see, okay, well, if you can flip this resistance into support, you have a nice bid going for you, a potential smiley as well if you get something like this, right? This is Colgate Palmolive. This is the one I gave you guys. And the entry trigger for this was extremely simple. Flip this into support. We haven't flipped it into support yet, look, right? It's not happened. So either flip this into support, this area, or you wait for the whatever shenanigans goes back down at the lows. But Colgate Palmolive, massive M shape again, already hit ABCD completions, Garley 786 1.618. It's within the PRZ, right? So if it's not going to give us the 886, it's going to base safe. If it's going to give us the 886, we get one more drop down, and even then it's fine, right? It's still going to be within structure. So this one again, keep an eye on it for the longer term. CL. It's Platinum. We already talked about this. Platinum on its way. Ooh, there we go. Beautiful weekly on its way to the 886 in my opinion, right? We talked about this on its way to the 886. So the last time we talked about this, we were below this, and I was saying, look, if you get above this at the 886, if you get above that, it's all-time high rate. So we're above this, we're above that. So the 886 is next, right? Let's see what happens there. Edu. I mean, I like the look of this, Edu. From this point on, I believe it's newer ones. Okay, so this is Edu. 618, right? Potential 1.618 target in the future if that 618 is valid. And after that insane sell-off, this is your first low, high, low sort of structure you've got, right? So this could lead to one more leg up to the upside. So I'd manage my risk for now if you're going to enter around the 2018s. If not, it's going to be around the 2024s, right? But the key levels are there on the screen. You guys know how to put this down. So just put them down. And then, where you go for entry, that's up to you. Right, where you go for an entry is completely up to you. But if I go to the weekly, I would look at this and I would say, okay, well, there's a clear gap here that used to be here, right? We have a very, very clear gap right here. So why not just wait until we can, either if you enter here, your stop loss is going to be this. Is that the long one? Yeah. Your stop loss would be something like that if you entered here, in my opinion, right? But the better entry, in my opinion, is to actually go not full position here and wait until you get something like this to do your final allocation above this. Because above this is when you're really clear to go above, right? So if you're going to enter here, maybe 40%, 50%, whatever you're happy with, right? And then leave the remaining for it when you actually get above and start consolidating above and flipping this into support. Then I'd go full position size to ride this higher. Edu. Now, SMG, Scott's Miracle Grow Company, right? This is Process Industries. This is all new. I've not gone over these with you guys before. The yearly looks good. Not good in the sense that, we're up, but in the sense that after our insane move up, we've had some move back down to value, right? It looks good in that regard. So for now, here's a pivot. I need to go through this fairly quickly. I need to dash. There's a pivot. No, that's ugly. That could be like a 1.13 of a bat, but it's alright. Just put the yearlies down, and basically the easy way to look at this is just this, right? The actual clear range we have here is this, because that to me looks like just huge manipulation, right? On the lower time frame, it's going to look, it looks, yeah, there you go, right? You're above that range. So as long as you're above this range, where's the next area you target? Well, anytime you're above this, well, historically it tells us we're going to this range here. So if you're above this, you're targeting this mid first and then that high next, right? And you might even get a liquidity rate to that fair value gap right over there of the 4 months. So that's a potential 116% move up, right? If it goes towards the middle of the fair value gap. Versus, how do you know if you're wrong? Well, if you start closing below this 57.45 level, I'd just cut it until you get to the mid, like 46, right? So that's one to watch. SMG. There is PDM. Gonna keep an eye on this one. I'm not in this yet, but I'm gonna keep an eye on this one, right? Just keep an eye on it. So this is a Piedmont. I don't know how you say it. I don't know how to say that, but I'm just keeping an eye on things that look absolutely gutted, right? This looks absolutely demolished. So if I see some sort of bullish structure coming in, I'll let you guys know. There is Velo, right? Velo 3D. Not really interested in that one. Locally speaking, like on the daily, you probably have some interesting structure actually. Yeah. But again, nothing actionable currently. You're below resistance, right? This is Zoom Communications. Let's take a look. Zoom. Why did I have this on my radar? For this reason, right over here we have the 621, right over here. There's a 621, and then with the 621 we have a 2.618. This, we haven't quite hit the territory of a deep crab. It has to be a 1.618, but that 2.618 extension has been hit off a 618 and a 886, right? Which is why I was keeping an eye on this one. So if you manage to get above just this sort of resistance here, you can see the support resistance area. Right over here. If you manage to get above that, then you can play it to the next range of 127, right? So the Zoom. This is nano nuclear energy. Now this is now energy again, right? Just look at where it is. If you're gonna bid, it would make sense to do so here, right? It would make a 100% sense to try and bid at this particular area. What do we have? We have a 0.5. We have a 7.8. I mean, no, we haven't hit like a 786 or anything, but we don't need to. That is the low of this channel. Anytime you've hit the low of this channel, what have you done? Bounce, 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 right? So we would be surprised basically if we did bounce here. Even to the mid, this would be 0.25, 0.5, like a 50% move, right? Pretty standard stuff. So NNE, literally keeping it bare bag, very basic. NNE, that's nano nuclear energy. This is Dow Inc. We have here to 886, but no sort of strength shown yet. But since this is like a higher time frame structure I'm looking at, if we go and smiley face this in the future, I'll be very interested. Okay, so just keep an eye on Dow for that reason. SMR, this is NuScale Power Corporation. On the yearly, just gonna mark out a random area. That looks important. There we go. M shape, that's a shark. That is indeed a shark. There to there to there, 1.13 minimum, yeah. 886, yeah. So, you know, we've hit a shark, right? If it goes a bit deeper, we're going to get the 1.618 as well, but this is a PRZ at a yearly level. So, again, area of interest. You can see why. Here, right? Big area of interest where we currently are for SMR. So you just manage your risks around the 886 to 1.618 PRZ, mark out the 1.618, mark out the 886, which we've already hit, right? There's a 1306 level around the areas where you want to get in, right? This just sort of region between 15 to 13 basically. And you don't want to get in all at once, or unless you have a really, really tight RR opportunity. You guys know how this works. But these are devalue areas where we expect like the smileys, the accumulative structure to come in, right? So let's see if it comes in for SMR. This is Hayward Holdings. Okay, consumer durables. Let's take a look. Yearly area, right? This is the underside retest for now, but at the end of the day, as long as you're above 15, you're 16, 17. Basically, if you want to get into this, you know what you're waiting for is this, right? Above 1631 to this 17 area, this is a nice place to bid if you feel this into support. Otherwise, I'd hold out for now, but I'm keeping this in your guys' radar again, simply because of where we are, right? All of these have some sort of catalyst coming out. Now, I forgot what catalyst is for each. I was doing this, like I said, at like between like 1 to 4 a.m. last night, right? This towards the top of the channel right now. So maybe the mid, right? Maybe the lows if you get the crab. But otherwise, definitely keep this one in the radar for the longer term, because that's very good structure. If you ever get above 17, this thing flies, right? It flies. You can see that. This is Canaan Inc. Can, right? I actually had I'd done Tay on this before, but this was a long time ago. Took some plays off this before. I'm interested in this simply because of how the chart looks, right? It's one of those ones that's in the gutter. I'm going to keep an eye on the local sort of structure, right? Local price action, so on and so forth. But really, I'm interested in this for the if one day we do go and confirm above 176 once again. Eventually, if we confirm it off 176 enough times and we show that, okay, buyers keep taking all the demand off this low, I think we go and run these wicks, right? And that would be a day to live for, because that'll be, even from up here, that'd be extremely nice move to the upside. So that's why I've got this in my watch list, right? People ignore charts like this, and I understand why, because there's no fun in looking at them right now. But if you prepare and you know what like, mentally you're like, okay, I'm looking for this sign, I'm looking for this, you're not going to be caught surprised when it starts to happen. You can capitalize on it, right? And you can actually catch the bulk of the move. So keep an eye on this one. This is Astera Labs, right? So this is the one Sol was telling me about. I've not got into this myself, but the structure looks insane. Yeah, it looks electronic technology, semiconductors. Of course, it looks good, right? This looks very, very good. This could very well be bull flagging, right? This could very well be bull flagging, and the bull flag breakout would take us way higher, way, way higher. So if this is a bull flag, if this is a bull flag, we have this, we have something like this, right? There we go. This sort of channel. Your target would be conservative target would be 163% move to the upside from the actual low, so not from where we currently are. So at 347, and then if we break out here, if that's a point of breakout, it'd be around 380. But this looks good. Very, very clear uptrend, right? So if we can keep that momentum up, it goes higher. If not, I think it'd be a blessing to catch this lower, honestly. It'd be a very, very big blessing to catch this lower. I'm doing bareback tier right now, very, very bareback, right? If you ever manage to get this thing at $69, it's going to be a bid for me. And that $69 would represent an 886 as well, right? So if we get some sort of M shape, for example, where, we get like this, and for example, right, let's just, for argument's sake, let's just say like, that was the top for now, and we get some sort of 886 coming down over here. That'd be an insane bid, insane. But, let's stay with the trend for now. Previous resistance is currently support, but we are currently at supply line. So if you get break above supply line, this can go higher. Looks good. I'm not in this myself right now. I don't want to be spread too thin, like I've said. If you break above and like, we shift trend back to the upside, even on something like the daily, then yeah, I'll get in, because why would you not ride the trend? Right, so this is a good shout, Sol, bro. Very, very good shout if you're here. Okay, so that's that. So let me spacebar some more. This is 10 holdings. I saw some sort of news come out for it, but nothing's happened yet. So I'm just keeping an eye on this. Nothing to do with this chart, so I'm not going to spend time on it whatsoever. Nothing to do right now. This is Mobilicom, right? Electronic technology, aerospace and defense. Like I said, these defense technology companies, bro, they've been doing insane, man. And I'm keeping an eye on them because, just in case they are due a little pullback, right? For example, this 786 here would be a blessing, right, for the Gartley. So literally just going to keep an eye on it and see how it goes. If not that, the 886, right? But wave structure in progress, not completed yet. And if it's not completed, we know it's not valid. So this wave structure is only validated once the D point hits and buy step in. But it's there, right? There's a potential wave structure there. So I'm going to be patient for now. But these are the ones, right? Defense, aerospace, right? Semiconductors, so on and so forth, technologies. Realistically, they're going to do well long term. They're going to do well, right? Which is why I'm keeping an eye on them. This is Atai Beckley, right? This is again health technology, pharmaceuticals. They're coming out with some, like, you know, they've got some really good drugs, right? That they've got patented on. So not drugs as in, like, you guys know what I'm trying to say, like, you know, for the health sector. So any sort of discount on this, in my opinion, would be nice. We've got that U shape. Potentially we have. One sec. Let me just mark this out. Yeah, we've rejected off that. We could have one more drive higher, but if we're taking this low here as the neckline, then you could be making a sort of cup and handle pattern as well, right? Like this. And I'm not playing the actual cup and handle. I'm just, it's what that represents, right? It represents the higher low, represents the rounding bottom, represents the you're staying within compressive trend to the resistance, and eventually you'd expect a breakout. So yeah, keep an eye on this one, Atai, right? Keep an eye on it. What levels would you want? You would want. I mean, there's a massive. Let me put this down one sec. Or rather, let me do this. That right there. That's a massive yearly FVG. And it below the mid. What about 6 months? Ah, okay. So 6 months, we've got this that I'm going to place down here. So if you know, there's a line in the sand right here, $3.96, and if $3.96 is lost, then there's no other two ways about it. This is where you'd be wanting to get in, 295 to 276, and at that point, I do believe we would have an M-shape completion. Actually, no, because that's too shallow. We wouldn't. But that's the next area I'd look. There's some new stocks we've not gone over before, right? Just space barring. This is Ivanhoe Electrics, right? This is non-energy minerals. I believe they do. I believe this is a massive copper mine, if I'm not mistaken, in the US, right? If I'm not mistaken. But yeah, insane chart, right? Just range, flip the mid. So if you get above this, you're literally trading this to like new all-time highs, and who knows how high it can go, right? Once it goes into price discovery. If not, like, you know, you've got a mid target. If that's lost, you've got a low target. But you've got a very well-established range you can take advantage of for IE. Ivanhoe Electrics. There's this super copper. Another, this is a copper mine as well, obviously, right? If you can flip that B again, you've got that BAM sort of trigger to the 886, right? If you can flip that B point right here, I'm just gonna go and pin the actual 0.5 there. If you can flip that 0.5, which you're not doing right now, you're just underneath it. But if you can flip it, you've got a BAM trigger up to the 886. So that looks good. But again, this is copper. Copper keeps going up. Copper mines, I expect their prices to go up as well, right? SoFi Technologies, SoFi, however you say it, consolidating again below previous all-time highs, right? So if you go and flip 2021 high into support, it's an easy bet in my opinion. Otherwise, you again 2204, 1581, very well-established targets for us to take advantage of when price get there, right? This is Mirion Technologies, right? MIR, Mirion Technologies. Again, just aerospace and defense, right? As you can see, I've added a few aerospace and defense like to the sector, right? Insane, just insane move up. One could argue that looks like a. Is it? I don't want to get ahead of myself. Is it a 382? One sec. Closer to a 0.5. In fact, yep, 2.0. Oh, in fact, way past the 2.0. That's a 2.618. Meaning this is a 618. Meaning it's probably, yeah, no, I'm just going to take it from the extreme. There you go. 0.5. We hit the 2.618 extension. 2.0 is all the way down over here. 2.618 has been hit. It just wait for some sort of high-low confirmation. I wouldn't be. I'm just not confident giving guys entries here, right? I'm confident the chart looks good. I mean, the 3 month doesn't, but the chart itself as a whole looks good. But I'm fairly certain this is not going to be like generational entries. Do you know what I mean? So this is why I'm telling you guys, keep you on your radar. We'll figure out, for all of these, we'll figure out like areas of importance, like privately, in a private stream, because that'll be easier than absolutely bombarding YouTube publicly. But these are all things like, as long as there's aerospace and defense, if some sort of war breaks out, these will absolutely skyrocket, every single one of these stocks. So just keeping an eye on it, right? The next pullback on this again, just look, trend is so clearly to the upside until that breaks. Right, for example, the thing you don't want losing right now is this. It's as long as you're above 1818, you're just again waiting for a higher low, right? And you could keep an eye on some 4-hour wave structures or something like this. perhaps a Gartley there, right? Something like a 618. Yeah, there you go. Your 618's right here. And there's the high. So like a 786 or even an 886, somewhere around here, right? You could keep an eye on the Gartley, $20. If you get the 886, it's going to be $19. And if both of those are lost, right, then you have a shot at a potential 1.618 per crab, right? But until then, like, you know, those are the areas where you watch for the high low to come in, 786 to 886, right? And just take a bid if you see buyers are being accepted there. So this is CCJ, this is Cameco Corporation. Non-energy minerals, again, this is like metals, right? So you can see I'm focusing on metals, I'm focusing on technologies, especially like, you know, the pharmaceuticals, they always do well, right? And then defense, right? Metals, defense, and then this. And I also have one for space and quantum because of the recent things Trump has like sort of put out. But we'll look at that in a minute. CCJ, insane chart. Like all of these I'm sharing with you guys, just have insane. This one's too late, right? This one's too late. But I'm keeping this in your radar because again, the retracement on this eventually will be glorious, right? Should it come? If it doesn't come, we missed it. But if the retracement comes, we won't be prepared with areas of interest. So we know, like, you know, where we want to deploy, where we want to see structure come in, so on and so forth, right? So another one to keep is CCJ. Because minerals, look, metals, minerals, we know by now these will always go up in value, right? They will. They're a finite source. So we'll keep an eye on this one, right? But that was an M shape to an insane run up, right? In fact, have you hit, this is the, you probably hit a 1.618 here. In fact, you've rocketed past the 1.618. Yeah, there. That's what you're fighting against right now, the primary projection. So if you get below this, like, you know, then you have some big drops potentially back to like 60s even. But keep an eye on it. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Centrus Energy Corp. Again, energy. Look at their stocks. These things have been, it's like Jesus on Easter, right? Just back from the dead, bro. Just look at him. Again, random area of no importance. We can see why I rejected here, right? Yeah, just looking for a high low confirmation or something like this, right? It's something with a discernible edge. I don't see an edge here. Not a discernible one, so I wouldn't enter yet. I personally wouldn't. If you can, if you want, if you see like a good RR opportunity, right? For things like this, like, you know, I only want to get in when I see like discernible edge and, you know, everything lining up with size, right? So I don't see that yet. You literally rejected off resistance now. Give it some time, but again, another energy / mineral stock, right? Metal stock to keep in mind, right? This is Centrus Energy Corp. Energy Fuels. Now this should technically be underneath like space probably, right? Because this is fuels as well, but again, this is also a metals, right? So again, beautiful chart, looking very similar to LEU, right? But LEU just had a way bigger expansion. So if you take a look, there we go. Like this is your, you know, not broke out, but you went above. Yearly smiley face, you can see that initial raid reconfirmation, getting the move up. So now, random area of no importance. Now, if we take a look, as long as you're above 14, you can try and play to 19, okay? Very simple. If you get below 14, try and play to 10. It's as simple as that. Line in the sands are exactly that, okay? This is Oklo. Industrial, this is manufacturing, right? Producer, machinery. Always bet on manufacturing because you want manufacturing to be bullish, no matter what country you're in, right? If you want your domestic produce to be strong, you want your manufacturing to be strong, right? So that's a 618. I don't know, we might get some sort of relief rally here, but ultimately I'm looking for like a 786, 886-ish. This might take a while, but keeping an eye on it, right? These are the kind of structures I want before I throw size in. You had them at the lows, right? And now it's gone, right? So now we've got to wait for our turn again, basically. But right now you're at a demand zone. That's a big demand zone right here. Big order block, basically, right? Area, consolidation area. So as long as you're holding this, I don't see why this couldn't go up from here, right? So you can try and play that if you wanted, the sort of lower high that could potentially come in on Oklo. But that's a potential because, again, look, on the weekly, on the 3-day, sure, you've shifted trend. But on things like the monthly, yeah, you're fine, right? You're fine. There's your last lower high that led to the higher low that led to the higher high. So there's a reason why I'm saying a lower high could come in because the trend has technically shifted on the lower time frames like the weekly, the 3-day, the daily, but monthly's fine, right? So you try to play that to the upside, and if it gives us a lower high, you would play that understanding the trend has shifted on the lower time frames. But if not, then you understand, you know, there's no reason to short blindly or anything like this because the monthly is still in an uptrend. Sort of like what BTC is doing right now, right? SMCI, Super Microcomputer Inc., right? Another one to watch, in my opinion. Why is this there? I've got no idea. Let me take a look at the yearly. No, nothing. Again, the reason I say to watch is because you're at a nonchalant area right over here, right? There we go. So back to 26 or above 35, you've got entries, right? Back to 26, you can see why that would be an entry. Above 35, you can see why that'd be an entry. So easy to manage range, easy, clear line in the sand, right, for these. There is NBIS, which is Nebius, which is the one that my bro Block just put on, right? Let's take a look at this one because that is an insane package software, okay? Technology. It's a very nice chart. Very, very nice chart. That is insane. That's a beautiful weekly. That looks, oh, that's gorgeous, in fact. If the weekly closes like this, next week could be dangerous, bro. To the upside. Dangerous for bears. Hang on, let me take a look. Yeah, that is insane, bro. That is huge seller absorption. Is there like some news for this or something, bro? Because that's gorgeous. Look, negative 249,840 contracts shorted, and yet look at the candle, bro. That is insane. That is seller absorption at its finest. With, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, double low in price high low in RSI, bullish divergence on the weekly. This could be gearing up for an insane move up. That is insane. That is beautiful. Insane. And by the looks of things, it's not like it's happening in the middle of nowhere. That right there is, yep, there we go. That's a Gartley. Oh, that is filthy, bro. Good find. That is crazy. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're above 8711, and if you want to get even more technical than that, the area you don't want to lose here, right? You do not, and I repeat, you do not want to lose this. Okay, because that is the bulk of where the absorption has happened, okay? You've got other point of controls, like you can see that all lining up over here, but that is what you do not want to lose. As long as you're above this, you are fine to be in this as a stock play, in my opinion. That looks insane. There's a previous resistance turning into support with huge amount of trap sellers on the weekly bullish divergence. This looks like a type 2 return. That's crazy. That's a very good find. I might add this on my made pool, bro. That looks insane. I'll wait for tonight's close, but that looks insane. Good shout. Is he here? No, he's dipped. But bro, if you hang on, let me just, yeah, hang on. I'll put this in the chat for him. Put this in the chat for him. Stocks chat. Let's go. There. Yeah. You guys see that, right? That is beautiful. That is absolutely diabolical. That is crazy. Insane chart. This is what I pointed out to you guys on ETH before we at 1,500, right? When I gave you guys ETH at 1,500, we entered there. This exact very reason, right? So this is insane. Yeah, beautiful. Good shot, bro. If you look at the recording later, insane. Yeah, leave it at that. We'll go more in depth in a private stream. Okay, some space stocks is LUNR. Right, let me go back to candlesticks chart. Space stocks just look insane, bro. They look so balled up, it's crazy. Look at this. It's like, on what have they been feeding these things? Like the charts look crazy insane, right? So if you get a retest on the weekly, right, next week opens and you get a swift pullback towards 1360, let's say, and it holds this area, I'll just bid. You are going into resistance though, the fair value gap, so it might, like, you know, it's probably wise to exercise a bit of patience here. But it looks insane, right? Look, it's beaten to the ground, and then now you've got these structures telling you, okay, well, buyers are clearly being interested, right? Buyers are showing interest in this asset. For whatever reason, they're showing interest. So these are the kind of ones you want to be in. Potential W shape here, perhaps. 382. Yeah, 382. This is there, so you know, perhaps you get a 886, something like this, right? But yeah, insane. So that pullback would be nice, right? And I hate this because, like, obviously I looked at this yesterday. That would have been a beautiful entry. I wasn't there to catch it, right? So now risk management becomes so much harder. Even though it's not moved much in the grand scheme of things, risk management still becomes that much harder. So if we ever get a gap fill, that is going to be a really nice bid in this thing here. So let's hope we get a gap fill next week. I know it's greedy to ask for a gap fill as soon as we get this candle, and you don't want that straight away anyway, right? But eventually, if we get that gap fill, that'd be a nice entry. But hopefully, this successful retest we do get, that'd be really, really nice. If you SAP it, we get the gap fill. LMT, Lockheed Martin, we all know this giant, right? But they have their hands in pretty much everything, mainly defense, right? Aerospace. So I want this. If we ever get a black swan and we get some of the deep discount, take some of these wicks out, I'll add this, right? This will just be like a longer term holds because these companies probably gonna, you know, they'll keep trending up over time. And then there's RD. This is Redwire Corporation. I really like the look of this one, guys. This looks bountiful to say the least. Okay. This is again electronic aerospace and defense, right? But this one, unlike the others, has hardly moved. So we've had if you take a look on log, we've had a nice candle. That's a bullish engulfing candle on the weekly, right? The candle itself is already 64%, which is what makes me go, you know. But this is by no means like a high cap stock. Okay, this is, you know, by looking at it, you should be able to tell it's not. But it's got structures where you can, you know, you can easily try to manage your risks. 786, 1.272 would take you here if that were to ever happen, but I don't think it will. So I'll just leave it there for now. Actually, I think I've already drawn that on, yeah. But yeah, so here is a key level, right? Here is a key level. As long as you're above now, 7.61, you could use that as a sort of line in the sand, right? 7.61 as a line in the sand. Put your stop loss something like this, maybe. If you want intermediate, you do like 10% basically, right? Something like that. And then, you know, let's see how high this thing can go, right? Could do that. There. But yeah. So those are some space stocks, right? And then of course some quantum computing. There's CCCX. Now, those of you that know me for a while know why I like Churchill Capital Corporation. This is a, remember, if you guys remember Lucid, right? Lucid, before it became public, underwent a merger with Churchill Capital Corporation, right? Churchill Capital. And then that's when they went public. After they merged, right? They went public. That was their offering. And then Lucid absolutely ran, right? That's back in 2021, I believe, right? But that one made us money because when I say us, like if anyone knew me back in 2021, Lucid was a very good play, right? So this, what was the name of the company? I think the company's called Inflection. Yeah, Inflection. This is going to be quantum computing. Now, this is very speculative. The reason I have this is because, you know, you hear quantum computing this and that. Realistically, we're still probably like a good decade away from good quantum computing, anything like that. But with that in mind, this is like a forward-looking play, right? CCCX, RGTI, QBTS, right? D-Wave Quantum Inc., IONQ, things like this. These are all sort of forward-looking. Right? If you think quantum computing will become like a narrative, like a sector that will get heavy inflows, sort of like how AI has done this cycle, right? Then these will be stocks you are very thankful that you looked at and maybe even had a bit of just for the long term held, right? In my opinion. So this is risky in the sense that it doesn't really have an ongoing narrative right now. It's not like you hear everyone talking about quantum computing, shouting it from the rooftops, saying it's going to change the world, because we're not there yet, right? But with that being said, forward-looking narrative, which is why I took the time yesterday to be like, okay, well, let's take a look at some quantum computing stuff. CCCX, important level, right, where it currently is. RGTI, again, after this insane move up, is back down to a very real level, very real level. If we go to the weekly, we can see that, right? Right over here. Very easy to see, right? There we go. And there's qubits, QBTS, right? Like I said, just waiting for a high low on many of these. As you can see, it's with no confirmation of a high low yet. Just got to find some significant levels. And because I'm running out of time today for all of these forward-looking ones, we'll go into deep dive. I'll do like individual, you know, top-down analysis, all of those, like we do for everything else, right? Like I've done, like a private, like individual analysis, right? I'll do that on all of these. But just for now, just so you guys know, right? Put these in your radar, in my opinion. IONQ, QBTS, RGTI, and then CCCX, right? Just keep an eye on these. So a lot of new stocks today, right? A lot of new plays, right? A lot of new plays. So you guys take the ones you like, right? Discard the ones you don't. You don't have to take all of them. Just literally take a couple, size up on the ones you like. That's probably the best way to do it, right? But yeah, I just wanted to do this because there's still so much opportunity, as you can see, a lot of opportunity. So it'd be a shame to miss it just because you didn't know these stocks even existed in the first place or anything like this. NBS, I'm really happy with this recommendation from my bro Block. That is insane. That's an insane weekly candle. Yeah, so this might go into my main port. But yeah, I'll take a look how next week opens. Yeah, I'm not going to rush into it straight away. Maybe we get a pullback into this before we go higher, right? So I'll spread my bids, but I'll keep an eye on this one. If you lose this, just cut. It's simple. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it from me today, right? Sorry this was a bit long, but just a lot to go through. I thought I could get it done in an hour and a half, so I need to really dash now. Get open enough for the evening. Third night at the new restaurant. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, right? A lot of new stocks, and if you need to look at anything in particular, if a question about anything in particular in terms of TA, just tag me in stocks chat. I'll get back to you guys when I see it, right? But let me stop this recording here.